Okay, hey guys, I'm over here. Thanks for anybody who's been waiting. I just ended my other live. So let me get set up real quick. I will get this live feed going and we will start watching the testimony. Hey guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. Using that technology, just bear with me and I'm gonna get everything set up, okay? You guys know where I just was, so just give me a minute. Let me get everything set up and let's get into the trial, girl. Okay, I'll be right back. Just bear with me.
As a general matter?
Well, I think whatever my income is speaks for itself, but as a general rule, a plaintiff's
Guys,
lawyer
we're in
doing
court.
what we do, income ebbs and flows. You have some really good years, you have some really lean years. And no, I think I had some good years, maybe not the, $4 and $5 million years, but I think I had some $2 and $3 million years in there. And my caseload was such that, I had, one of the things I was working on that Monday was one of the biggest cases that I've ever been involved in.
Talking about the Dominion case, right?
Yes, sir. And so, I think it was cyclical. So I don't, without looking at the record specifically, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay, so you don't remember then?
No, I do remember. I don't think I agree with that. But again, those records will speak for themselves.
All right, I'm sorry to dead the sound, but real quick, I just want to get you guys caught up. This is Alex Murdaugh. He is being crossed by the state at this moment. Alex is on trial for the double murder of his wife and his son. And they're talking about a array of financial acts that he's committed against his clients, against his practice. He has stolen millions of dollars, and he has not been tried against it yet, but he has admitted to it. But it's possible motive for the murder of his wife. So this is what's going on right now. I would suggest while you're watching this, do a couple Google searches, but and we'll get into it when they go on a break. But this is fascinating. Okay. Oops.
2019 reported income of $655,000.
Okay. And see to me, that demonstrates exactly what I'm talking about, how it goes up and down.
And would you agree with me that though during those periods of time where you were making that kind of money, you continued to steal? And I think you've already said that your stealing increased as we move through those years as a general matter.
Absolutely. I don't dispute, and I have never disputed since I was confronted on Labor Day weekend,
right,
that I took money from my clients.
We've gone through that. And
but you keep asking me
I'm
about
asking
that.
you if your income.
You can finish your answer.
So the point is I have never, since being confronted that day, my brother.
He's on trial for murder. The reason why
that I have.
The reason why the financial crimes are being considered is that he had according to him, somewhere between a $30,000 to $50,000 a week opiate habit, which is almost impossible. I think he's trying to cover up because he was writing checks to pay his dealers, because they were pretty much probably with what's suspected is that they were injecting opiates into the community that he lived in. And so he had a drug smuggling ring, allegedly. He had a pretty ferocious drug habit. He was skimming off the top of his client's settlements. He was stealing from the practice. And one of the motives could be that his wife was going to turn him in, his wife and his son. It also could be that he killed his wife and his son for insurance policy. They had about 6 different possible motives. So even though you're hearing about the financial crimes are setting the groundwork for the reason why somebody would pull the trigger and in the fashion that they did to kill their wife and their son brutally with shotguns. Okay. Like, you know what the damage a shotgun does versus a gun. And his son got a shotgun blow to the head. And I believe his wife did too. Like, it was pretty gruesome.
I did.
I shared the dash
Did you
cam
also,
footage
over the years, repeatedly
on my
borrow
community page.
6 figures from your law partners?
Well, I borrowed money from a law partner,
Which one?
Johnny Parker.
Johnny Parker. Okay. And that was a fairly common occurrence over the years. It happened multiple times. Would you agree with that?
I agree that it happened multiple times.
All right. And you would agree also that
Notice he can never just say
sometimes
yes
use
to
some of the
something. He's
stolen money to pay that
he's
back.
such a liar. I hate to say it, but he's admitted to lying.
I won't dispute that. I don't know that that's the case. I know what I saw Mr. Bernie testify to in using that particular accounting method. You know, I see that.
All right.
So I don't dispute that.
All right. And would you agree that you also, when you needed money, occasionally borrow as much as 5 and 6 figures from your father, Mr. Randolph?
I did.
And would you also agree that over the years, particularly as we move to June of 2021, you would use stolen money to pay that back?
I don't dispute that. If that's what.
Pearls of
the record shows.
wisdom. This is what I'm going
Right.
to say to that. I don't believe for a minute that a man who's making $1 million salary, $2-3 million, $5 million a year doesn't have an insurance policy on his wife. What I'm going to say is this: did the law practice? You know what I mean? Like, this guy was so calculating about how he handled things. There's no way that a man of his means and income did not have an insurance policy. I'm sure the practice probably had a policy. They had to have had some policies on the spouses because this guy was a partner in a very lucrative law firm.
And so are we talking about June?
So maybe he did not
I'm
have
talking
it
about as we
personally,
move to
but I
June.
wonder if
Okay,
the
but
firm
what
had
time
it.
period are you talking
All
about?
right, let's talk about January to June.
Okay, January to June. January to June, you know, I could borrow money from my father.
Mhm.
I could borrow money from Johnny Parker.
Mhm.
I could go to the bank and borrow money.
Not that we know of, live, laugh, love. As far as like a
had
mistress and other kids,
Substantial
no.
equity in the Edisto house, as we've talked about.
Which was in Maggie's name, correct?
Well, it was in Maggie and my name.
All right.
So, you know, that definitely was in both of our names.
He's one of
Moselle
these
was
guys
in
who,
Maggie's name.
you hear that? He's one of these guys who
Substantial
didn't even
equity
have
in
stuff in
that.
his name.
That could have been borrowed against. So under the terms as you defined liquid assets just now, money that I would have access to, I disagree with.
I mean, that could have been a ploy. For him to not have stuff in his name could just be like, well, my wife controlled everything. Well, that's not necessarily true. he was stealing money and we don't even know where that money was. So to me, the fact that he was stealing money, hiding money, secret accounts, all of those things, the fact that the visible money was all in his wife's name, he also was evading taxes, because if you're stealing money, you're not paying taxes on it, right? So he's probably going to get some federal charges for tax evasion, everything. They say that he's standing potentially for 99 years on just what he's being charged with in financial crimes. He's going to prison for a very long time, this man. But we're going to see if he breaks down on the stand, because he so wants to explain himself, and I think he's going to annoy the jury.
That's one of the reasons.
And would you agree with me that the $792,000 that you stole of those Ferris funds, that you exhausted those
Hey,
within
LOL.
about 2 months?
I don't know the time period, but I know that I exhausted them.
And on what? It's not even like they
Now,
were
again, I'm
living
trying to
lavish.
Get through this quickly.
Where are you spending
Because there's a lot
$750,000?
more to talk
He's
about,
trying to
obviously.
say it was on his drugs,
We went
but
through a number of questions yesterday about
how did you
the various
take $750,000
clients
million
that you
in
stole
drugs
from,
and
correct?
you're still
Remember that?
alive?
The back and forth we had yesterday. Do you remember all that?
Sure I do.
Okay. All right. And so I'm going to try to shortchange this, but I think it's important that we at least say the names of the people that were involved. But let's just do this to see if we can.
To the comment, Your Honor, inappropriate.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor. The clients that we're talking about, these are all real people, yes or no?
They're all real people.
All right.
They're
And
all
these
good
clients-
people.
Okay.
They're all people that I care about, that I cared about then. And a lot of them are people that I love,
Okay.
and I did wrong by them.
Yes, you hurt the people that you love. I know. So
If he spent $50,000 on pills, those pills were going out the door and getting flipped somewhere else. He's sitting
every single
on
one of them,
some money
you at least had
somewhere.
a
It's
personal
probably buried
conversation
in
with
that
at some point
1,700 acre
during the course of the
property.
representation.
He's a
All my
damn,
clients?
Representation.
Absolutely.
he's a damn
I
Walter
had
White
multiple
over there,
conversations with
okay?
all of my clients.
And these were
That's,
people,
this is the real
every
life
single
Walter
one of
White,
them,
okay?
real people that you looked in the eye and convinced
From
them that
Breaking Bad,
everything
if you
was
didn't
right.
know who Walter White is.
Honor, 403, repetitive, cumulative. We spent 2 hours doing this yesterday.
But simple questions that applies to everybody, and then I'm moving on.
No, we
Let's
talked
see.
about this yesterday, India. This is not, we're
I would have
not.
had conversations.
Okay, let me tell you guys real quick. We're not in the financial trial. The only reason why this is coming up for possible motive, the financial case hasn't even hit yet. This is the murder trial. So no, you didn't miss it. They're talking about cases he's already admitted to, because I think he's been stripped of his law license. If he hasn't, I'm sure it's coming soon. But no, you have not missed that, because it's only 9:50 and they just started back at 9:30. So from yesterday, no, they have not talked to any witnesses yet, because they're just reading the names of the forensic data of the forensic accounting that had to happen when the law practice had to kind of regroup, because there was so much corruption based on the fact of what he was doing and what the firm did not know that they were taking part in. They had to separate himself from that, and they renamed the practice. They had to pay cash out to all the people. They had to take out loans, all of the things. He has not been convicted on these crimes yet, but he has admitted to some, if not most of them, maybe not all of them. That's why I think he's trying to be very careful, because he's facing 99 years for that. But if he gets convicted of murder, it's not going to matter, right? But yeah, none of the people that they're mentioning, you will see the testimony. Maybe at the end, they might do that for sentencing potentially if he's convicted. But if, right now, you're not going to see those people paraded in and out. Some of the people are even dead, like Hakeem Pinkney. His lawyer is in the audience. I'll try and point him out to you when they show him again.
Clients
He's
that
this guy
trusted
right
you, that
here.
you stole
Hold
from,
on.
or instances in which you stole from your law partners who
This,
trusted you as well.
I agree with that.
All right, so we don't need to go through each one of these, correct? You agree?
Mr. Waters, like I've told you, I'll go through whatever you want to go through, but each one of those clients is just what we've already talked about. Good people, fine people, upstanding people. They trusted me. Every single one of them I did, and I do still care about. And many of them I love and consider them close friends.
Like Barrett Boulware,
Absolutely. It's a perfect example.
and you stole it from Barrett Boulware.
I did.
This guy,
You recall a conversation that you had with Ronnie Crosby in which he told you that Barrett was desperate for money because he needed his wife to stay in a hotel near him while he was undergoing treatment for terminal cancer around the time that you stole from him.
Say, Your Honor.
Objections overruled.
I don't recall that conversation, but, you know, I knew Barrett was sick. You know, Barrett is a unique situation. I mean, Barrett is and was dear to me as a friend. But, I mean, Barrett and I had a long history, you know. I guess really, and I lied probably more by omission, lies by omission in stealing that money. But that's a perfect example. You keep asking about me having these conversations and looking people in the eye. I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, when I stole that money, he was nowhere around. It was more based on lies by omission. And Barrett and I
Is he
had
crazy?
such a history. These real estate deals that you're asking me about, Barrett was one of my good friends, and we had been in these real estate deals together. Barrett was just an interesting person. He was a shrimper, was born and raised in Allendale County, and he moved down to the coast. And
Mr. Murdaugh.
as shrimping,
Mr. Murdaugh, I don't know that we need Barrett's entire life story.
no, but it's important
Let
to
me just
understand
ask
this
you
based on the
this.
question you asked.
I don't think his entire life story is responsive, Your Honor.
And I'm not intending to give his life story. I'm just telling you a little background.
Go
so
ahead,
you'll
tell us
understand
about
this.
your friend that you stole from. That's fine.
So Barrett started getting into real estate, and he was really good at it. And so I started getting involved with him in that. He could go out and find pieces of property that were really cheap, get them and sell them and make money. Well, we got in some of these deals, and we got in.
Okay, guys,
and it
to the
slowed.
attorney's point, this is what I
when the
think is the
recession
problem with
hit,
people feeling like Crichton. This is the
one of
state's
the
attorney
reasons
today
these land
who
deals
they have a
caused me
problem with.
trouble is 'cause the people that I
Alex
was in
is so
these
passive
deals with
aggressive.
no
He
longer could
is
pay, whereas I might have gone in and I was a
really
20%
taking
person.
control. The man told him we don't need to
now
hear
all of
it.
a
He
sudden,
should have just said to the
either I
judge,
have to
please tell the
default at the
witness to
bank
answer the question, and that's it, right? He needs to manage this
affect
witness
credit,
because
affect the ability to
right
borrow,
now,
or
Alex
I
is
have to
like
pay
passive
100%.
aggressively
So
managing him
that's what I did.
and
I
has
paid
him wasting time
100%.
telling a
And
story nobody
so there were
cares about
years where
somebody that
I
he
was paying
swindled.
instead of
Okay? You know what I
a
mean?
fifth
Like
or a half,
it's
I'm
there's no
paying the whole thing, and it
justification
equated to hundreds
in
of thousands. It equated to millions of
you
dollars, which is one of the
parsing
ways
out
why
lies of
I
omission,
ended up
lies
with
of
the Moselle
commission,
property, because
flat out
I paid
lies. Like at the end of the day, a lie
more than $1
is
million,
a lie, period. So that's my take on that. He's really,
monies for Barrett, and that was part of the
but you know what?
deal and the
At the end of
trade
the day,
in
this
me
is almost like
purchasing
Judge Neal. Okay.
Moselle.
Remember
Tell
Judge
us you felt
Neal
like you were
let
entitled to steal from.
Keisha
No.
talk
You know what?
herself all the way
I
out.
will
And I
tell you
think
this, that
from the point
know,
of the state, he's going to let
when you're doing the
him
things
talk
wrong that
himself
I was
all the way
doing, you
out,
have all kind
say
of ways of
something, because
justifying it.
people who like to run
And
their
I'm not
mouth,
saying
they're going to say
that
something.
makes it right by
Okay.
any means, because it's not. It's wrong. I've said that 100 times. But when I was doing it, and I was as addicted as I was, and the things I was doing, there's all kind of things that you know, to be able to look yourself in the mirror, you lie to yourself.
So this is great right here. He's talking
And
about how he
I
has
guess
developed his
self-justification
skills
these
for
bad
lying.
things, I guess is what I was doing. But, Barrett had owed me so much money that when I took his money, I just didn't tell them. So it was a lie by omission.
All right.
Who's going to tell someone that you stole their money? Look
All
at,
these
you see the
people.
black guy back here, kind of light skin with the, hold on,
On these two exhibits.
right here.
These were real people.
This
that
guy
did
right
this money,
there.
Is that correct?
I'm sure they did.
That is the lawyer. The black guy back there that I just showed you, he is the lawyer right here. I'm circling his head right now. That's the lawyer for Hakeem Pinkney. I told you guys about him yesterday. Look him up. Hakeem Pinkney. He was in a horrible car accident. He became a quadriplegic. He was in a rehab center. They believe that this man right here may have even sent someone to unplug his respirator. Okay. So it was another lawsuit. Justin Bamberg. Hello. Yes. He's been sitting behind right there the whole time. Anyway, long story short, not only did they get a settlement for the car accident, but they got a settlement for the malpractice, or the suit from the rehab center that basically, they unplugged his respirator and they sued them, right? He stole the settlement that Hakeem Pinkney's mother should have gotten. She was not even aware that there was a huge payday for her to compensate her for the negligence of the rehab facility. He stole it and skimmed off the top of the initial claim from the vehicle accident. Okay. That she, her daughter, and Hakeem were in. Hakeem ended up becoming a quadriplegic. This guy is really bad. Okay.
That I used in looking back on this that I don't know how I did. But so to sit down and say, did I evaluate that they needed the money
Yes.
more than I did?
January. Absolutely.
I don't think I did that. I think I was selfish, and I think
right,
I
India.
just took the money.
Okay. I think I understand.
The lawyer needs to work on seeming less
I asked
bothered.
you a series of questions yesterday about at least relating one conversation you had with one of these clients. And I'm just going to ask you this one. Do you remember looking Tony Satterfield in the eye and lying to him?
I remember lying to Tony Satterfield, and I remember looking him in the eye on many occasions.
Just say yes.
Yeah.
Lying to his
It's like he
family?
can't even say yes.
I lied to his family. I don't know if I did it in person, but I know I had phone conversations with him where I lied to him.
The entitlement,
Let's
the
talk a little bit,
privilege, all of that.
About the pills.
It's disgusting. We'll talk about it
Okay.
on the break.
And you've already testified, as have other people, that you were still able to function as a lawyer over the years despite the pills that you were using. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were able, of course, during this period of time to engage in these relatively complicated thefts that increased over the years that we've just talked about, despite the pill usage. Is that correct?
I was. I was.
All right. And you were also able to, during this time period, convince your staff that nothing was amiss with all of these exhibits, despite your pill usage.
I mean, most of those didn't require convincing my staff, but just so we're on the same page again, I acknowledge that I certainly allowed them to be misled. I certainly allowed them to do things that I shouldn't have done on my behalf, knowing that they trusted me.
How many pills were you using a day?
Depends on a number of items. Most importantly, how strong the pill was.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, let's say start maybe in January of 2021 and move forward. Can you describe to the jury what your daily pill intake was like?
I think at that time, most of what I was purchasing was 30 milligram pills, instant release oxycodone, that were probably mixed in with some OxyContin, which is made of oxycodone. It's just time release. I would have been taking anywhere from
He needs to make it make sense. Make it add up to $50,000.
1,500 milligrams maybe to
He's trying to do some
maybe
quick math.
1,000 or maybe 1,000 milligrams or 1,200 milligrams on a day I didn't take as much or didn't have as much, up to, I mean, there are days, many days, a lot of days, most days were more than that, and many days would be, more than 2,000 milligrams a day.
And how many pills is that?
It depends on the strength.
Well, let's say it's the
Of the pill.
30s that you just mentioned.
If I took 30, if I had 30 milligram pills, you figure 100 pills would be 3,000 milligrams.
100?
100.
So you're taking 60 a day or something like that?
There were days where I took more than that. There were days I took less
How
than
can you
that.
take 60
And how would you take them over the course
Oxycontin
of the
and
day?
be alive?
I mean, how many are you taking at one time? How
Let me
frequent
Google.
in
Let me
this time
Google
period?
lethal
Let's say
dose of
January.
oxycodone. Okay.
There's a point in time, and I'm not sure when it was, I think it was well before that, where, and you have to understand this. This is something that I can still remember the first time I ever took an
Mr.
OxyContin.
Murdaugh, can I ask you to answer my question, and we'll let you explain all you want. And my question was, how many were you taking a day during this time from January to June? Answer that first, please, and if you want to explain, I'm happy to let you do so.
I'm not positive, and here's why. It's because over the years, like as I was saying, the first one OxyContin made me sick. And that was when I was transitioning from hydrocodone to oxycodone. And it made me sick because it's a really, really, really strong one. And so, one OxyContin pill was like 10 hydrocodone pills. So, but anyway, as I took more and more, and over the years, it just, you build up a tolerance to pain pills. And so what might give me this energy, one of the reasons I became so addicted is, some people talk about pain pills and how they make them lethargic and, where they can't do anything and they feel. Opiates gave me energy. I mean, whatever I was doing, it made it more interesting. It made me want to do it longer. To go on a drive, it made driving, it just at the beginning, it made everything better. But I took so much just to it got to a point where I was taking so much just to not backslide or go into withdrawals or have all those symptoms. And so it got to the point where I was taking the amounts that I came to be taking in the time period you're talking about, January to June. So it evolved over time. It wasn't like it just started then, Mr. Waters.
All right, can you just give me one example of a day during that time period?
Sure.
Did you start at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever time you got up and take one and then one every 30 minutes? I mean,
Well, no,
I've given you a chance to explain. So
it would
now
totally
be
depend.
specific.
It would totally depend on any number of circumstances. So starting a day, one of the main things that this would depend on was how late the day before I had taken pills and how many I had taken.
Is he going to
And
say,
did
look,
I
if
take
I
them
had a
during the night?
good
Did I wake up
breakfast,
during the
maybe I would
night
take 20. If I
and
didn't have
take 'em?
breakfast,
So,
I'd take about 35.
let's just say that it had been a while since I took any and I slept. and I woke up. All right. Then I would immediately, first thing, take pills, because if it's been a while.
He can't give
a lot
an
of
amount
times,
because
if
he
you
said
slept
he was taking
and hadn't taken pills,
$50,000
you
worth.
wake up and you can
And
tell
he's going to,
they're
they're probably cornering him on a lie about how much drugs he actually took. Because if he was spending 50,000 on drugs, what they're going to also say is that, yeah, you weren't taking all of them. You were selling them, right? You were profiting from a drug smuggling business, right? Like that's what I think the state is going towards.
And that's how strong the withdrawals are for opiates, correct? That you feel that agitation until you can take another pill.
Yes, I mean, but that's just, agitation's the tip of the iceberg.
My thing is,
when
he's
it
recovered
comes
quite
to
well for
withdrawals,
someone who
opiate
is a
withdrawals.
pillhead as much as he said he
You
was.
said
I think that
was
they're
complaining
going
to the jury
to
and
corner him
telephone
on lying about
conversation
being
with
on
Special Agent
drugs.
Kelly, and you talked about withdrawals, just how strong they are, how you're willing to do anything to make them stop, correct?
I think what I
I
said
think
is
his
almost
drug was
anything.
money,
Almost anything.
MONEY.
Describe that, please.
I mean, you're sick. I mean, you're physically, you are physically sick.
He might have liked some Coca-Cola. I don't
It's like
know.
having the
That's
flu
possible,
when you
but I don't.
ache
He doesn't
and
strike me
your
as
joints
a
hurt.
opiate head for 20 years.
you
I don't
don't
know
wanna
how he
get
would still be
up.
alive.
I mean, you can't get up, and that's after a while. It starts with what you're talking about, agitation and fidgety. Everybody talks about how fidgety I was, but it starts with that, and then it goes to you might be sitting here.
It's like,
just
here
all
we
of a
go
sudden,
off track again.
sweat's
I
running down your
hope the
face,
judge
all over
can
your body. I mean,
really
you
support
you
the
ran a
state
marathon. I mean,
in
you
like,
literally sweat
sir,
that much.
can you just answer the fucking question, please?
The next thing that comes on after about, 12 hours is, I call it jumpy legs, but I mean, there's no way that you could sit right here in this chair. I mean, you couldn't remain sitting.
I
mean, you
wouldn't
would
say
have to
he
get up
didn't
and move
indulge.
around.
He looks like the
it's like
type,
your legs
but
don't want to work.
I don't think he was a
And that
pillhead.
lasts for about 20,
Not as a lawyer who's
anywhere from
clocking in on
18 to
$3 million
24 hours.
legit, but on top of all of the stealing he was
during
doing
that
on top of
period,
that. So he was making millions and millions of dollars.
Intestinal issues come in, and I mean, you
And
literally,
he was very heavy at the time. So you're talking
can't
about intestinal
control
issues, but you were 265 pounds.
yourself. You have diarrhea, like you have food poisoning.
I think his addiction was stealing
Throw
and
up.
the greed, the gathering of those
physically-
coins.
Physically sick.
How many times did you try to self-detox?
I do agree with you right there, Life of Leisure. I
Quarters.
think he may have had a little cocaine habit. I
Dozens,
don't know about the
dozens.
opiates. Maybe
not
he did them
hundreds.
occasionally, but I
there's
would
so
say it's
many, I
probably
can't
other
tell you.
stuff. He seems like a Red Bull whiskey type.
And those symptoms you just described are extremely powerful and made it very difficult.
He's hiding the money, Nina. Absolutely.
Made it difficult to.
to try to
It's in the bottom of the boat.
Oh,
It's under the kennel. It's
extremely
somewhere. That he's got Walter
You
White
mentioned
money.
yesterday that you were paranoid. How long had that been going on?
Well, no, I didn't say that I was paranoid. What I said was, as the addiction evolved, there would be situations where you would have these paranoid thoughts.
And when did
And-
those first start?
I can't tell you when they first started, but
I mean, how long before June of 2021?
a long
week,
time.
a month, a
Oh,
long
no,
time?
no. It was as my addiction got worse. I mean, it was a significant period of time, but
How long
when-
would
when-
you have these paranoid thoughts?
I think he's lying about the
usually a
addiction, and I
matter of
think
seconds.
the
I mean,
the state
it was
attorney knows
something-
this. Like, if he's lying
Again,
about this, he's
my
lying
whole
about
life,
that. He lied about
you
being
wouldn't
at the
see me
kennel.
where I didn't have pills on me. And that's where I kept them. I kept them on me because I was scared to put them somewhere for fear somebody would find them. So I kept them on me. So if you saw me,
He's
I had
lying about
pills on me.
everything.
I had a pocket full of pills on June the 8th, on June the 8th, when I was sitting in David Owen's patrol car. So I always had them on me, and I might be going to Edisto, and I turn on Hampton Street right out here, and a police car pulls out. Boom, I have paranoid thoughts. You know, it just.
Yeah, but you've got your blue lights and you've got your badge. So
But-
who's going to stop you?
I could always
Who's going to check you?
say, you're not doing anything wrong. He's not following you, and I could get past it in a matter of seconds.
Well, because you had a badge. You had a solicitor badge and you had a car with blue lights.
Did anybody in your family ever see you having these severe withdrawals?
Absolutely.
And who did?
Mags, Pawpaw, Bus, my dad, Randy, John Marvin. And just to be clear, Randy and John Marvin never saw me having withdrawals before September. They
So
saw
who-
me.
And I thank you for clarifying that. Prior to June of 2021, who in your family saw you having these severe withdrawals?
Bus, Pawpaw, Maggie, my dad.
Only dead people and his one surviving son. So you're implicating your son
You,
in making him come back to talk
Remember
about your
in,
drug habit,
calling-
and the other
remember
people
calling
are all dead.
Paul a little detective?
I don't know that I ever called him a little detective, but I think Maggie did. I may have. I mean, Paul was very intuitive, so I heard
think you said
Miriam.
that during one of your interviews.
I heard Miriam call him a little detective. I know Maggie used to call him that.
Did that have anything to do with the pills?
Well, yeah, it had something to do with it, but I mean, Paul was always that way, but that what led him to be called a little detective, certainly there were times when Paul found pills.
Including just a month before the murders. Is that correct?
No, sir.
You recall 6/5/23 that was entered into evidence, which is a text from Paul to you,
I do.
which he said that Maggie found pills in your bag.
Right.
Tell me about what
That
happened
was-
after that.
You asked me about Paul finding them, but it was Maggie that found them.
Fair enough. So it was Maggie that found them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But Paul is the one who reached out to you, correct?
On that occasion, yes, sir.
And what was the discussion after that?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was about that I'd had eye surgery. I don't know what day it was, but days before that, the day Maggie found them, Maggie drove me to the doctor for me to have my cataract removed, whatever they call that surgery. I can't remember, but I had a cataract taken out, outpatient. You go in for a couple hours and you come out. And it was during COVID. And so Maggie wasn't allowed to come into the doctor's office. And so she sat in the car. And I had left pills in the computer bag and sitting out there bored. Guess she started looking at my computer and found them in the computer bag. So she found those pills.
All right. And so she obviously told Paul, and Paul texted you, correct? About finding those pills
That's correct.
in May of 2021.
That's correct.
And you've heard your sister-in-law, Marion, testify that Maggie called him the little detective about the pills. You heard that testimony in this courtroom?
I did hear that.
All right. So did they start to watch you like a hawk and get on you about your pill usage during the month of May?
No,
They did not.
no, Mr. Waters, this battle that I had with addiction, it had been going on for years. And so they had been watching me like a hawk for years before May. May was just one occurrence where I let them down again.
They had been watching you like a hawk for years. Is that correct?
About my pill addiction, yes, sir. That is correct.
This time in May, that wasn't the only time that Paul found pills or Maggie found pills. Is that correct?
Now, there were a number of times where Mags found pills, Paw found pills, Bus found pills. I mean, it was an ongoing, it was just an ongoing battle for me.
And after they found those pills in May, that being Maggie and Paul, were they trying to get you to self-detox?
No, sir, not at that point in time.
They just let it go?
No, they didn't let it go. But at that point in time, Paul and I had already had a discussion based on, I can't remember exactly when it was, but there'd been a previous occasion a good while back where there'd been a previous occasion where either Maggie or Paul had found pills, and Paul had come to me and asked me, and I told him, you know, I was back on the pills.
He won't even answer how many pills. He
And-
can't even say, yeah, I was doing about 40, 50 pills a day. But you're getting emotional about your 20-year-old son confronting you about finding pills because he's asking, like, Dad, what are you doing with all these pills?
We had had
It's
a
really
long talk.
sad that
As I said, I don't
people
remember exactly when it was
do
before
this
that. Paul and I had
to
had
their
a long
kids.
talk. And we'd agreed, I had agreed, and I detoxed so many times. I'd been to detox. I detoxed at home with Maggie's help. I detoxed at home with doctor's help. Detoxed on my own, tried to.
Right. And there was
it
a
just-
landing strip at,
Just
what was it?
detoxing just didn't work. It
At the
just- you
house.
couldn't-
One of the houses, the hunting lodge, had a
You could
private
detox,
strip for planes to be
you
able to,
couldn't-
small little jets to
No,
land
not
in,
you. I couldn't
like those
I
prop
couldn't.
jets.
stay off of them. And so
Girl, if I didn't know better, I would think he was a
promised Paul-
theater major.
that as soon as we finished with his criminal case, that I would go to rehab. And and on this particular occasion, Paul knew that his mom worried about me so much with pills that on this particular occasion, I think that Paw convinced Maggie that I got those pills in anticipation of the eye surgery, but that I never took them so that she would not worry that I
I
was.
swear to God, he's just
Once
trying to
again-
confuse the jury. They should send him to go
Prior
roast.
claim
I'm
about
sorry.
overtime
He
pay,
is
that
awful.
I'll talk to
He's
Maggie,
awful.
Administrator of that, or are you talking about a different time?
I'm not claiming that, Mr. Waters. That's a fact. This is what happened.
All right, we're hearing that now, correct?
Hearing what now?
What you just said.
Well, you just asked me this. Mr. Waters, you keep making the issue about first time you hearing these things. When I got arrested and I went to jail, we began reaching out to you to talk to you about all of these things, to try to tell you everything that I'd done, to give you all these details to help y'all go through these financial things. And up until the time that y'all charged me with murdering my wife and child, you would never give Jim Griffin a response to our invitations to sit down and meet with you.
He didn't
You're
have
telling me I
to.
never responded to Jim Griffin. Is that what you're saying here today?
I'm telling you,
Are you saying that you ever before yesterday reached out to anyone through yourself or through your attorneys and reached out to anyone in law enforcement or the prosecution and told them the story about the kennels? Are you telling me that?
what I'm telling you,
Answer my
Mr.
question
Waters,
first, please, sir. Answer my question first. Did you ever reach out to anyone in law enforcement or the prosecution and tell that story that you told this jury yesterday about the kennels before yesterday?
did I ever reach out to law enforcement to say, I want to tell you about the kennels? No, sir, I did not.
This is the Fifth Amendment line.
Pardon?
Yeah.
His questioning about him volunteering information on these charges violates his Fifth Amendment rights, and we strongly object. Any more, we have to make a motion.
The objection's overruled.
What I did was,
Running that
So, yeah,
yapper.
Question first, sir.
Your Honor, for the record, he did not bring it. He was talking about financial
Sit down,
stuff.
Mr. Griffin.
Ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh. If he would just answer the damn questions.
Yes or no question.
Maggie a fool.
Before yesterday,
Maggie's gone.
never bring up what you told this jury about that kennels to anybody in the prosecution or anybody in law enforcement?
no, I didn't have the opportunity to, Mr. Waters, because you would not respond to my invitations to reach out and tell you about all the things that I'd done wrong. And to talk about bringing this to a head, to talk about bringing this to closure. I understand how many people I hurt. I understand how angry my partners are and how hurt they are. And I understand how hurt these people that I stole money from are. I understand how hurt they are. And one of the things that I believe is getting past this may help them get some closure. And so since at least January, I've been trying to sit down with y'all to talk to y'all.
So it's the state's fault that he didn't get to tell everyone how bad he'd been. When he got that text that said so-and-so brought the heat from Miami, do you think the heat from Miami was some hitmen to get his wife and his son? I mean, I don't know if they've even said that, but who brought the heat from Miami? It just so happens to be the night that his wife and his son are
And
killed.
law partner Mark Ball?
Listen, I haven't spoken to Mark Ball since I went to rehab.
And these were the same law partners that you were listening to the night of. Is that what you testified to this jury earlier? You testified to that earlier, did you not?
I don't understand your question.
Didn't you testify earlier that you were listening to your law partners on the night of the incident?
Was I listening to them?
Yeah, you testified to that. It's a simple question, sir.
I'm sure I was. When are you talking about?
On June 8th in the early morning hours, you testified to this jury that you were listening to them, but you never told them the Kennel story either. And they heard it for the first time yesterday as well. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's the first time they heard it.
First time that Ronnie Crosby ever heard that would have been yesterday.
If he was listening, that would have been the first time he heard
First
it.
time Johnny Parker ever heard that was yesterday.
Yes.
First time Danny Henderson, who was representing you in the boat case, ever heard that was yesterday.
There's no
Yes,
plea deal
yesterday
on
is the first
this,
time
I don't think.
that I have said that openly. But that's not what you were asking me, Mr. Waters, but you go ahead,
First time your brother Randy heard that was yesterday.
if he was listening. And Mr. Waters, just to be clear, I was begging for a meeting with y'all to try to bring this to a close, to talk to y'all about everything up until the time that y'all charged me with hurting Maggie and Paul.
Hurting Maggie.
After
He
that
charged you
point
with
in
killing
time,
Maggie.
I stopped, obviously.
Information that you were begging for a meeting and but you admit information was never conveyed that you wanted to change your story after multiple interviews with law enforcement about what happened that night, including the most important fact of all, which is when the last time you supposedly saw your wife and son alive was.
I don't know exactly what was conveyed or not to you, because I wasn't part of it. All I know
Fair
is
enough.
what
You don't
I
know
was
what.
trying to do was to sit down. I understood to bring all this to a close that y'all would want me to sit down and go through all of these financial things, all of these things that I'd done wrong. And to try to bring that to a close, I was repeatedly trying to sit down with y'all.
The reality is, Mr. Murdaugh, is the reason why no one's ever heard that before is because you had to sit in this courtroom and hear your family and your friends, one after the other, come in and testify that you were on that Kennel video. So you, like you've done so many times over the course of your life, had to back up and make a new story that kind of fit with the facts that can't be denied.
Ooh,
Isn't that true,
ooh.
sir?
No, sir, that's not true.
You've done that over and over again over the years with all of this that we've been talking about, haven't you?
I've done what over and over again?
The second that you're confronted with facts that you can't deny, you immediately come up with a new lie.
Okay.
Isn't that correct?
Mr. Waters, have we established, I have lied many times, but I can't sit here and tell you that, what are you talking about, facts that I can't deny? That I would disagree with that proposition that you're putting out, that was what I did all the time. But in doing that, I admit again that I've lied to people that trusted me.
He sounds like Bill Clinton. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
So we can agree that the prosecution and law enforcement and so many of your friends and family heard for the first time your story about the kennels yesterday after all these weeks of testimony. Can we agree on that?
That law enforcement, my partners, and my friends heard me say that for the first time. Yes, I agree with that.
So just in case any of you guys are new who don't know, his son was on Snapchat the night of the murder,
Do you agree with
right
me?
before the murder. And his father so the man on the stand, Alex, was caught in a Snapchat video. There's no way he can say that he did not see Maggie and Paul at the location where they were killed, because Paul caught him in a Snapchat video, and he was also in the background of a FaceTime video, a video that he sent to a friend that did not get to the friend but was in Paul's phone, where he was interacting with Paul and Maggie at a time he said that he was not. And he basically had to come up with a reason why he was there, because he said he never saw them before the murder, but turned out he actually did
Privileged communication.
minutes
Totally
before the
improper.
murder.
Yes, sir. In response.
He has brought up his communications with counsel, and now that is fair game, Your Honor.
Ooh, ooh,
His communications through counsel or alleged communications with the prosecution.
ooh, ooh.
He didn't.
There's no attorney-client privilege to national television interviews. The objection is overruled.
Ooh, sit your ass down. Homie is not playing with these people. And keep an eye on Justin Bramberg in the background,
Are
the
you waiting
attorney for
me to
Hakeem
answer, Mr.
Pinckney.
Waters, or did I answer?
I think the point's made.
All right, sir.
You said you were unaware of that national television interview. Is that what you said? You were
Unaware of what national television
the
interview?
one where your lawyer repeated that story as late as November of 2022. Your story that you were actually home asleep at the house.
The
during
only,
8 o'clock
the
hour.
only national TV ad that I'm aware of is, not ad, program.
Well,
is one
that's just standard over there where he lives. I
that
mean,
Mr. Griffin was involved
everyone in the neighborhood
was
has one. So yeah, he didn't think that
Are
was
you referring to
special.
like a Dateline something?
I'm talking about HBO.
Okay, HBO. All right, like, so yeah, I am aware of that. And what I believe the case to be is that I believe that when that was in its works, that Mr. Griffin made those statements sometime substantially before November of 22, as early as around the very beginning of 2021.
Well, let's talk.
At least what I understand to be the case.
All right, let's talk some more about your testimony from yesterday. And you're telling this jury, even on something as clear as a Kennel video, that your story doesn't change when you have to make them fit the facts that no longer can be denied. Is that what you're telling this jury?
I don't understand that question. Say that again.
I said, you're telling this jury that you don't change your story to make the facts fit evidence you can no longer deny, like what's been going on in this courtroom.
I'm not telling the jury anything about that.
All right, good. All right, let's move on. Let's talk some more about that issue. Let's talk about the confrontation on June the 7th with Jeannie Seconder, which you said was no big deal. Isn't that what you testified? Words to that effect?
I think what I testified to is that, to me, it certainly didn't seem like a confrontation. Jeannie came to me and was almost apologetic. And this is what I believe, Mr. Waters, is I believe that what Jeannie Seconder and my partners have had to go through since September has been hard. I know I could see it. I could see the hurt that I caused them. And I know that they're betrayed, and I know that they're angry, and I know that they're hurt. And I want to make clear to this that while I disagree with what Jeannie said as to it being a confrontation, because I don't believe that it was, I don't think that she was lying. I think that she feels it. I think that, she believes that that's the case after all this time that she's had to deal with this. But on June the 7th, when she came to me, she was almost apologetic. You heard her say that she said that she wouldn't be doing her job if she didn't do this. And it was made clear to me that someone had said this, that I had to make sure that income came through the firm, that I couldn't structure money. In other words, I had the impression that there was concern that maybe, like Mark Ball and Ronnie Crosby said, that maybe I was hiding fees because of the civil boat case.
Let
But
me see if I
that
can
conversation was so
summarize.
quick, Mr. Waters, that you keep using the term confrontation. I didn't take it as a confrontation.
And you're telling this jury you're not making that issue fit, make your story fit with those facts by saying, it wasn't a big deal, and Jeannie, she's hurt, so she's overreacting now.
No, that's
You
not
got
what
on
I'm
that
saying.
stand and testify.
What I'm saying is exactly what I just testified to, that to me, on that day, that was not a confrontation. It ended almost as quickly as it began, and I didn't think about it again for a period of time until after everything happened.
You testified earlier, you get paranoid if a police officer turns out behind you, but you're not getting paranoid when Jeannie comes in here and says, I need an answer about these fees?
No,
I
because
believe you took them?
no, things like that wouldn't cause the paranoid thought and the paranoid thinking. It was always related to pills. It was always, okay, that reaction that somebody just gave me.
It was always related to pills.
Do they know something? Did something somebody said? It was, I mean, the times that's what, when I had to deal with paranoid thinking, that, you know, if a judge confronted me in the courtroom about a piece of evidence, or if Jeannie asked me about that, those are not things that gave me paranoid thinking.
Okay. And you testified the same thing about the boat hearing on June 10th. Not worried about it. No big deal. Correct?
No, I didn't say that it was no big deal, but I said that my main concern about those motions coming up on June the 10th dealt more with the venue motion than they did with the motion to compel, I believe is what I
Are
said.
you telling this jury that you didn't testify yesterday, that you weren't concerned about it?
I wasn't overly concerned about it.
Okay.
And I'm sure I had some level of concern because the venue motion was, it was a big issue in the case.
Were you concerned enough about it to bow up on Mark Tinsley at the trial lawyers conference and say, what are you doing, Bo?
No, absolutely, unequivocally, never happened.
If the Ferris fee issue comes to light on June the 7th, you're not going to be able to borrow money from Johnny Parker anymore, are you?
If the Ferris fee, hypothetically speaking, if the Ferris fee came to light on June the 7th, well, here, any point in time, if the Ferris fee came to light, Johnny Parker would not loan me money.
Okay.
If Johnny knew that I had taken fees, I would not have been able to borrow money from Johnny Parker.
He wasn't paranoid about people confronting him about stealing millions. He wasn't paranoid about his son being held to account for underage drunken
Testified earlier about going
behavior that caused in the
to
death
the,
of a
Gamecock
friend.
baseball game.
He wasn't concerned
Weekend
about
prior to
anything but
Monday,
the
June 7th,
pills.
2021.
That's what he said.
Correct.
Hold on for me real quick.
Sir?
Uh-oh, they're putting something into evidence. Look at Sir looking for his glasses so he could read it. Uh-oh. Do you guys see Buster today? I don't even see Buster.
Right.
Oh, there's Buster
show you
right
what's
there.
been
There's
marked
his
as
son
stage
right there with the red
572.
hair.
To this trial, you got your readers with you, or your glasses. And have you, first, I just want you to look through that document and then answer the question, do you generally know what that is?
Waters. Someone wants something, so if you'll stand for a moment, everybody stand for a moment.
Everyone stand and get your wiggles out. Does the jury need to leave? He wasn't worried about a ting, okay? Are they going to take a 10-minute break? Okay, so right here, if you guys can see, you guys can't see. Okay, right here with the red hair. No, they changed the vantage point. Okay, so those are his lawyers. He's reviewing his document. Okay. He knows he's fucked. Look at his face. He's going to say, "Can I use the bathroom?" There's his son right there. That's the one surviving kid right there. You know what? The thing about him not having an insurance policy, I'm so sorry. Like, this is a person who used to have insurance policies issued on a regular basis on his clients who had structured annuities. You didn't have an insurance policy on your son and your wife. Is it because you did not need one? To January's point, he flew a plane down to the Bahamas, so maybe he took a couple of suitcases with $100 bills. I mean, who knows? But yeah, he didn't have an insurance policy because maybe he did not need one. Maybe it's down in Bimini somewhere. Okay. Mm-mm. I don't. That's strange to me that somebody with all of those
Yes, sir.
properties,
All right,
all of
and you
that money,
recognize what those are?
did not
Gentlemen?
have insurance policies,
they?
but you have one on
Checks
yourself for
between
12
Maggie and I.
million. That doesn't make
And what day
sense.
did they take place?
June the 6th.
June the 6th, 2021. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
At this time, the state would offer states 572 in the evidence. Objection.
To admit without objection.
All right. Tell the jury, where were you when these texts were taking place?
I was in a hotel,
And what city were you in?
Columbia, South Carolina.
And where?
Uh, I'm not exactly sure where they were when they first started, but they would have been somewhere between a hotel, a restaurant, and the ball field.
All right. But when you send this text on June 6th at 11:41, you say y'all in seat already, correct?
Yes, that's what I did say.
All right. And they say, yeah, Maggie says, yes, we like these seats. Is that correct?
All right, that's correct. I didn't notice that. So at that point in time, they are in the ballpark.
All right. And then you respond, better than last night. They extended checkout to 1. Going to come then. Is that correct?
That's what that text says. Yes,
All
sir.
right. So you're back at the room. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Later on, you text after she asked you to bring a charger and says, Muggy, you text, I'm dreading it. See you in a little bit. Is that correct?
That's what I said. Yes, sir.
She responds, don't come, but then asks about the charger and says it's hot. Is that correct?
Mr. Waters, yes, I assume you were reading it exactly. So, yes, sir.
Ooh, I think he's getting ready to call the lie.
She eventually responds, not crowded, but not the place to come if you don't feel well. Very hot and muggy. We are inside, sitting at the bar, very nice indoors. Is that correct?
That's what it says. Yes, sir.
And then you respond, Algie, by accident, they are making me leave, so I'll see y'all in a few. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And who was making you leave where?
It was past checkout time at the hotel.
After you'd gotten an extended checkout, correct?
It appears so.
And the reality is that you were in that hotel suffering from withdrawals when that's going on. Is that correct?
I was beginning to. Yes, sir.
And the reality is that your wife and your son were on you at that time period because they had found pills just a few weeks prior.
No, sir, that's not correct.
Let's talk about June 7th, okay? You got up that morning, or what time do you think you got up and left that day?
After having the benefit of looking at all these records, I don't know what time I got up and looking at the records. Obviously, I've been up for a while, but it appears I left shortly after noon.
Okay. And you went to work?
I did, yes, sir.
And what were you working on at work?
I was working on this Dominion Energy case, was primarily what I was working on, that we had motions coming up later in that week. As I said earlier, I believed at the time that it was the biggest case that I'd ever been involved in.
So you're going through withdrawals. You have this horrible drug habit. You were just in the hotel detoxing, and you hightail it back to home. You go to work, and you are working as a professional lawyer on a big energy case in the middle of withdrawals. Oh, okay.
Doing
Sure.
that so that
Sure.
it could be given to Danny. It's primary, is what I remember doing. Obviously, I talked to Jeannie.
Okay. And what time did you?
And I'm sure I did some other routine office things, but I can't tell you what they are.
What time did you leave?
He's so
It
smug.
appears that I left around a little after 6 from the records.
Okay.
I thought I'd
And-
left earlier than that, but I mean, the records seemed to be pretty clear.
All right. And you were, in fact, I think you said in both.
He was in the
many
office
interviews that you were
stealing,
working on the
yes.
boat case that day as well. Your financial declaration.
Scamming.
Yes, I prepared the financial declaration. I didn't do any work in this civil case. So my work in that is what I did. I prepared the financial statement, which took me a little bit of time to get the details on that. But I mean, that was the work I did in preparation for the motions coming up.
And what time did you get home?
And looking at the records, it looks like I got home a little before 7, 6:45, I think, 6:40 something.
Then you and Paul rode the property?
That's
Did you?
correct.
And you told law enforcement you shot a 22?
That's correct.
You told law enforcement that you never saw any blackout?
That I'd never seen a blackout?
At that point in time when you and Paul were riding the property?
No, I did not see a blackout.
Did you tell law enforcement that you and Paul were going around looking for hogs?
If I said that,
Go ahead.
and if I told them that, you don't look for hogs in the daytime. All right. The hogs are deep in the swamp in the daytime. So I can tell you that Paul and I were not riding around looking for hogs. But what we were doing is we were going from food plot to food plot, and we were looking for hog signs. All right. What a hog will do is come out and
We were
root.
looking for
They
hog
tear up food plots,
signs.
they tear up everything. And so that was one of the things we were doing. But we were not hog hunting. We were not looking for hogs. We did not have the 300 blackout with us.
Okay. Paul didn't have the gun that blackout that he favored with him while y'all rode the property.
The gun that's in here,
Any rifle.
there was no 300 blackout with me and Paul.
All y'all had was a 22.
And that was a 22 pistol, but we didn't have that with us at that time riding the property.
Right. And you testified, you've seen the Snapchat video of you on the tree, is that right?
I have seen that.
And you don't dispute the time of that video, do you?
He's so silly.
I don't even know what time that was taken, but
I don't even know what
gentleman came
time
and
is.
testified to. I
What
don't
is
dispute.
time?
All right. And what time Well, let me ask you this.
I don't have
When
a
did
watch, sir.
You go
I
back to
didn't
the
know.
house? Were you with Paul or were you by yourself?
I was by myself when I went back to the house. I went back to the house basically when Maggie got there.
When Maggie got there. All right. And where had Paul gone prior to that? Was he back at the house already or he came after you?
Paul was
Rich
at the
people
shop
don't
when I
use
went back to the
time.
house.
They just go places.
All right. So you beat him to the house is what you're saying. Is that right?
I beat him to the house?
Yeah. You were at the house prior to him getting there.
Yes.
All right. And you say Maggie was there at the same time or there before you or there after you?
That's what I'm not absolutely certain about. I believe that Maggie came through the kennel entrance, and going back and looking at these records and these times, I believe she came through the kennel entrance while Paul and I were at the shop. But either way, I got to the house very shortly after Maggie got there.
Okay.
And I believe that she came through, and I believe that I went right behind her.
And when did you take the shower that you've been talking about?
I believe when I first went in the house. I mean, I would have talked to Maggie for a second, but I'd seen her that morning, so I would.
You left your clothes on the floor?
I'm not sure. It makes sense to me given what Blanca's said, but I couldn't tell you.
He can't answer. And you don't know when the last time you
One way or
talked
the
to your
other.
wife before she was murdered? You can't remember the last thing y'all said to each other?
Looking at the records, I think that was a little after 8.
And you're saying Maggie was already there at that point?
When I got to the house,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my God.
And what did you do after that?
I came back out, sat out on the couch to eat dinner.
All right. What time was that?
A few minutes later, I mean, it didn't take me long to shower.
And you say Paul was already eating at that point?
He was.
You say he left first.
What I said is he got up and he finished eating and he left our immediate vicinity. Now, I don't believe he left at that point, given what I've looked at time records and all. I believe that he was around the house for a little bit longer.
And just to be clear, again,
But I didn't see him.
all of this detail was people were hearing for the first time yesterday, like we talked about before, correct?
Say that again?
All of this detail that we're going through right now is not anything that you related before. We're all hearing this for the first time yesterday.
Objection, Your Honor. Fifth Amendment privilege.
Objection is overruled.
Oh,
So, yes, I did not tell law enforcement.
y'all, I just have to.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
I don't think law enforcement asked me what I did when we first went to the house, but I clearly lied to law enforcement about what I said yesterday.
Okay. And all of this, the last time you supposedly saw your wife and child, all of this detail.
Girl, her
you as a
sister
lawyer
says
and
she
a
thought she had a
prosecutor didn't think
prize,
that was
okay?
important to offer on your own?
She said she enjoyed her marriage with
You told this
Mr.
jury how
Alex,
cooperative
and
he
she
was
really
been and how much
thought she
information
had a
you wanted to
prize.
provide, but you left out the most important parts, didn't you?
I left out that, I sure did.
You don't consider that one of the most important parts?
I think it's important.
He won't give this man a
All
break.
right, tell me about what happens next. Tell me about how Maggie and Paul end up down at the kennels.
I'm still not absolutely certain exactly how they ended up at the kennel, but in looking at the time frames and looking at the GPS points, I think I pretty well know, because I wasn't sure if Maggie had walked to the kennels or ridden to the kennels, and I wasn't exactly sure how Paw got there, but I'm all but certain that Maggie and Paul went to the kennel together.
All right. And what was the discussion? You said that they were going down there, but you didn't want to go. Is that right?
Maggie. What I said is Maggie asked me to go to the kennels with her, and I wasn't going to go. I said, I'm not going to go.
And how long after she left did you supposedly go down there?
It was very quickly.
And what did you tell this jury and all these new facts as to the reason you changed your mind? Why'd you change your mind?
I just had a shower. When you go to the kennel, you always end up at the shop, dogs are running around, you're always going to end up doing more work. All right?
They have a hunting, they're the estate, I don't know, 1,700 acres. They lived on a property with dog kennels. It was a hunting lodge sort of type setup, and they lived on a very large property. And you know, that's basically. I don't want to fill in on all of it. When they go to a break, we'll talk more, and you guys can ask me any questions. I'll answer anything I
I
know.
ended up doing it.
And you took the golf cart down to the kennels?
That's correct.
How long did that take to drive from the house down to the kennels in a golf cart?
You know, in looking at the records from OwnStar and all of that, it seems to take about a minute in the
On a golf cart?
nope, in the Suburban. So I would think it's probably, in looking at those speeds of what, 20, 24 miles an hour, I would think it takes double that. I think it takes a couple minutes.
All right, so you'll concede at least.
So
a couple
as the
minutes to drive
crows
down.
fly,
Correct.
it took
Yes.
3
Golf cart.
minutes.
That's correct.
When the kennel video was going on, had you arrived before that?
I believe that I had.
Okay. How long do you think you had been there before that was going on?
Not long. Because when I got there, in looking at the kennel video, you can see Pawpaw standing in the kennel. When I got there, Pawpaw wasn't standing in the kennel.
He wasn't in the kennel anymore?
Well, he wasn't in the kennel like he is in the video.
Right.
He's probably, and I don't know exactly, but I know he wasn't in the kennel. He was like in the driveway. He was fooling with cash. He was in the driveway,
Girl, he getting ready to put on a show.
but like close to the kennel, but not in the kennel like he is in the video.
So the video.
Only reason why he has copped to being down at the kennels is because he got caught in a Snapchat video. He said he hadn't even been down there the whole day until, well, not the whole day, but he hadn't been down there in that time period until he went down there and saw his wife and his son dead. But he actually saw them minutes before the killing. And he says he went back to the house, but he didn't hear anything. He didn't hear these high power rifles kill his son and his wife. He didn't hear
Did
anything.
you have any conversation with her?
He don't remember.
Had you had a conversation? Did you have a conversation with Paul about the dogs, about Cash's tail prior to going down there?
Prior to going down there? Did I have a conversation with Paul about
Yes. Did you talk
cash?
to him about Cash and some problem with his tail prior to going down there? Did you have any knowledge of that prior to going down?
I'm not sure. As I sit here today, I don't recall.
You
that,
said it
but
yesterday.
I don't think so.
When you first arrived in the golf cart, where did you pull up to?
I pulled up right where Maggie was.
Which is where?
She was standing in the spot where she could see in between the chicken coop and the storage room of the kennels, where the dogs were back up in those planted pines behind the kennels to the left of the chicken coop.
And what'd you do after that?
I went back to the house.
No, I mean, did you pulled up, you get out of the golf cart,
When I pulled up, I stayed on the golf cart,
stayed on the golf cart? How long did you stay on the golf cart?
however long I was down there.
The entire time?
No, I got off to take the chicken from Bubba.
All right, so how long were you down there before you took the chicken off the boat?
Very short time.
Like what?
Just a matter of minutes. I'm not sure.
Minutes.
And And what were you doing during the couple of minutes before you got over there to deal with Bubba?
Talking to Max.
And what did y'all talk about?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
No, sir. I do know that Maggie was very concerned about Paw Paw, and
You remember a lot of detail about all these new facts, but you don't remember what you talked about?
I don't remember the exact details of what we talked about. I believe that at that time, we may have talked about Paw Paw, but I'm not certain.
Were you withdrawing at this time?
At this time, no, sir.
You weren't withdrawing at all.
No. I mean, I would only withdraw when I didn't have pills.
And you're saying you had pills?
Yes.
Down there for a couple minutes, I think you've said now, before you get off the golf cart?
About, yes, sir.
All right. And where do you go at that point?
I take the chicken from Bubba.
All right. So you get up.
Well, I mean, Bubba's come out there with this chicken. I mean, he's showing us, hey, I caught this chicken. And I take the chicken from Bubba.
Bubba came up to the golf cart.
He came up by the golf cart. He came up to Maggie and I, which I was on the golf cart. She's by the golf cart. I mean, he's not coming to the golf cart, but he's coming to us.
Is this during the kennel video or is this after the kennel video?
Well, no, you hear Maggie say he's got a chicken.
Okay.
That's what she's talking about is Bubba caught a chicken.
All right. All right. So is the kennel video still going on before you go get the chicken? I mean, you've heard it, correct? You've heard it in this courtroom.
I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly, but in close timing to Bubba coming out of those woods with the chicken, I got up and took the chicken from him.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Were the dogs barking and carrying on or going out into the woods or acting like they sensed somebody was around that they didn't know?
Were the dogs acting like there was somebody around that they didn't know?
Yeah, like dogs do.
No.
No, they weren't.
There was nobody
There was no
around that the dogs didn't know.
Okay. Dogs didn't, to your indication, sense anything out of the ordinary. They were just chasing after the guinea.
There was nobody else around
All right. Good.
for them to sense.
Oh yeah,
Kennel
there are no
video,
killers,
you agree
no
with me
killers in the
that
mist,
lasted
no
about
no
50
gun toting
I agree with that.
murderers in the bushes.
So it would have ended around 8:45 and 45 seconds. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Did you have the chicken out of Bubba's mouth at the end of the kennel video, or did it take longer than that?
You know, I can't remember exactly when in the video he came up with the chicken, but I would have had the chicken out of his mouth within 10, 15 seconds of Maggie saying he's got a chicken.
All right. And so then what did you do?
I put the chicken up.
All right. How long did that take? Did you get out of the golf cart to do that?
I did.
All right. And you had to go walk to where it was?
Well, yeah, I mean, a few feet, but I did that, yes.
All right. So how long did that take? I mean,
Seconds.
we're at 8:46 now. How long did that take?
Seconds.
Just seconds? All right. And what did you do after that?
Got back on the golf cart.
And what'd you do after that?
I left.
You left.
Now,
Just
did I
jumped
leave?
on the golf cart and left.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. Did I get on the golf cart and leave that second? Probably not. But did I get on the golf cart and leave very quickly after that? I did.
Okay. Yeah. I think you testified yesterday. I got out of there.
I did.
Why'd you get out of there so quick, Mr. Murdaugh?
Because it was
Because the heat
chaotic,
was coming
it
from
was hot,
Miami.
and I was getting ready to do exactly what I didn't want to do.
You were getting ready to do what you didn't want to do.
I was getting ready to sweat. I was getting ready to
Oh,
work.
okay.
I went back to the air conditioner.
It wasn't use the gun.
Say goodbye, according to your new story?
Did I say goodbye?
Yeah. Did you talk to them at all, or did you just get the chicken, put it on
Get
there,
your
jump on
ass
there,
out
just
and
take
just
off?
I
leave?
wouldn't have just gone off. I mean, I would have said, I'm leaving.
Okay.
Did I say goodbye or bye?
And again, go
But,
ahead.
I mean, there would have been some, there would have been some exchange. I'm not staying here.
Well, what was that exchange? I mean, you've had such a photographic memory about these news stories. What happened here?
It's not, I can't tell you the exact words.
You don't remember your conversation after you put that chicken up? Did y'all talk about the chicken?
No, I don't think we did.
Did you talk with Paul about Cash's tail?
After the chicken?
Yeah.
No, I know I didn't do that.
Did you tell Maggie I'm going to go check on him?
At that point, no, I don't
Did you
think
tell
I did.
Maggie, it's hot out here, think I'll go back?
I certainly would have said something to that effect.
All right. So, unlike everything else with the news story, you just can't recall what that would have been.
Well, I mean, you're making that categorization. I think there's other things about that I can't remember. But if the question is, can I remember exactly what words I used when I gave Maggie some salutation when I'm leaving, I can't tell you what those were.
All right.
But it would have been something to the effect of, I'm leaving.
Okay, but you would concede that there was at least some conversation, that you wouldn't have just put the chicken on there and ran back to the golf cart and taken off. Correct?
Without talking to Maggie, I would have never done that.
All right. All right, so let's, you want to say a minute? Does that sound about right?
A minute for what?
To have just whatever interaction it took for you to then, according to your news story, drop back to.
No, sir. It wouldn't have taken me a minute. It would
Not
have
a minute.
been, it would have been, I'm leaving. I'll see you in a minute.
Okay, so 30 seconds?
I don't think it would have taken 30 seconds, but I mean, I'm fine with you using whatever time you want to apply, but I don't
I'm
think it
just
would have
asking
taken that
about
long.
real life here and how people interact with one another, Mr. Murdaugh. I mean, so what you're telling this jury, I call you're fuzzy on these kind of details, is that you jetted down there, you dealt with the chicken and jetted right back.
No, sir. No, sir. I didn't jet down there and I didn't jet back. I got up after Maggie asked me to leave, after Maggie asked me to go with her, and I didn't. I got up. I went and got on a golf cart. I drove down there. I did what I did. I said, I'm leaving or something to those words, and I went back.
All right. Well, if it's about 8:46, if the kennel video ends at 8:45 and 45 seconds, and it's about 8:46, we at least can see that maybe it was about a minute before you got on that golf cart and headed back. Just reasonable real life.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it was that long, but maybe, sure.
All right. So,
But I don't think it was that long. I mean,
all right, well, how long do you
exactly
think it
what I
was,
thought
Mr.
was going to be
Murdaugh?
going on at that kennel, why I didn't want to go there to begin with, is exactly what was going on.
Yeah. Well, I get that.
And I left.
Are these also convenient facts in your new story that have to fit with the timeline now that that evidence has been thrown in your face?
No, sir.
Does that sound like real life to you, that you jet down there and jet back, Mr. Murdaugh?
Mr. Waters, as I just told you, I didn't get on my golf cart and jet down there. I didn't jet back.
The
Those are
reason
your-
why you have to be
Hang
so
on now,
fuzzy
Mr.
about
Waters.
these
Just a second.
details.
Mr. Waters, hang on.
Just answer before another question is presented.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Just a
answering your
moment.
question.
Just a moment. Are you responding to the last question?
Yes, sir. I'm responding to your question and you're using words that I'm not using. And that's your
Do you agree
categorization.
I'm entitled to ask my questions to you, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm going to answer them. All I'm saying is I'm taking issue with the manner in which you're changing what I'm saying.
So you
And
disagree this is a new story? You disagree with that characterization?
yes, this is the first time that this is being told openly.
And you disagree to my characterization that you've got a photographic memory about the details that have to fit now that you know these facts, but you're fuzzy on the other stuff that complicates that. You disagree with that?
I do disagree with that. I think that I have a good memory about a lot of things on this.
How about this? We got the Kennel video ending at 8:45:45. So just to take care of the chicken, put it up. I was going to say 8:47, but somewhere around there. I think you said somewhere around there. Is that fair? Just to do whatever you need to do and get on that cart before you head back.
The Kennel video ended at 8:45,
In 45 seconds.
8:46. It certainly could have been 8:47 before
Guys,
I
this
left out of
guy's
there.
54 years
I think
old.
it
He
was
acts
sooner
like
than that, but it
he's
could have been.
got dementia or something. He's
75
54.
seconds, correct? After it ends.
If it ends at 8:45 and 45 seconds, it's a minute and 15 seconds.
You characterized it yesterday as I got out of there, right?
That is exactly what I did.
So if we're at 8:47, I think you said, giving you the benefit of the doubt, it's 2 minutes to get up back to the house, correct?
Approximately.
All right. And when you got back to the house, where'd you park the golf cart?
Same place I'd gotten it from, right where Murdaugh testified that it was.
And what door did you go in?
I would have gone in the front door.
And if you left around 8:47, and it took about 2 minutes to get up to the house, what time would that make it, Mr. Murdaugh?
If I left at 8:47, and if it took me 2 minutes, that would make it 8:49.
8:49.
And you did not hear
Testified you went
gunshots.
Inside, and the TV's on, right?
I did go inside, and the TV was on.
Okay. And you laid down. Is that right?
I did.
All right. Before you said you'd been napping for an hour or so, or napping that entire time, but now you laid down on the couch.
That's correct.
All right. And maybe dozed for a second,
Maybe.
according to your new story. How long did you doze?
If I dozed, extremely short time.
Extremely short time? Because you would agree with me that at 9:02, you're up and moving, according to the data.
I agree that according to that data, my phone's recording steps at whatever time it is, 9:02 something.
How long did it take you, if you're at the house at 8:49, how long before you went and laid on the couch?
I would have gone straight to the couch, probably. I may have gone by the sink, or I may have gotten a spit cup, but it would have been basically straight to the couch.
Straight to the couch.
Yes, sir.
And you're telling this jury that that's what happened, and you were back at the house at 8:49, and you lay down on the couch and dozed for a second, and then you were up with more steps in a shorter time period than you had done all day.
Well, I mean, your number is 8:49. What I'm telling this jury is that I went down there, and when I took that
Hey, y'all. Hey.
I would have said something to Mags. I got back on that golf cart, and I drove back to my house. After getting back to my house, I went inside, and in short order, I went to the couch. That's what I'm telling this jury.
Did you go anywhere else in the house?
Mr. Waters, I can't tell you specifically about that. I don't think so, but I may have.
Did you have that tan blackout and a 12-gauge shotgun on that golf cart when you drove down there?
No,
You didn't?
no,
Did you see them when you were down there?
no.
No. So we got you back around 8:49, and you're leaving at 9:02, correct? And you didn't see any weapons down there. You just happened to be back there. You didn't hear anything at all. Did you hear anything at all, Mr. Murdaugh, during that time period?
No, I did not.
You didn't? Didn't you tell law enforcement that you thought you heard them pull up? Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
I did think they had
Okay.
pulled up.
All right. So that was that. You did think that?
Yes.
All right. So now you're saying there was a car pulling up?
No,
You didn't testify to that yesterday, did you, in your new version of events that
no, I don't,
construct?
Mr. Waters, I don't believe there was a car pulling up.
Okay. But that's what you told law enforcement, didn't you?
No, I told law enforcement that I thought they had pulled up.
All right. But you're saying you couldn't hear blackout shots supposedly, but you could hear that, correct?
I didn't say I couldn't hear blackout shots, but I'm saying that I thought when I got up from taking a nap, if I took a nap, but when I got up from laying down, as I was getting ready to go to my mom's, there was a point in time where I thought Maggie and Paul had come back.
You also told them that you thought you heard a wildcat, but maybe it was a person or something like that as well.
No, that's not what I said.
What did you say then?
I said when I went outside that there's a house cat that's gone wild, and he hangs around. He goes from hanging around the shop. Goes from
Amber,
hanging
he's
around
an
the house
admitted
different
liar.
times. You might-
So
and there were
I don't
times you
even
don't
think
see
it's
him.
selective memory.
And
I think they're
he had
just
been
trying
around
to
the house.
be able to catch him
And
in
when I
the
went
lie that's going to
outside,
put him
I believe
exactly
that cat was over
murder
there.
happened, which he did.
And you made a point of mentioning
He's
that to
already
law
done that.
enforcement.
I
They're
never
just
thought it
trying
was
to
a person.
get him a little bit
You
more
made
into
a
the
point of
corner.
mentioning that to law enforcement, correct?
But yeah, he's
In the
lying.
course of discussing it, I did tell them that.
But you never told them. the
Ashanti,
true
like
story
2
and
minute,
Chief
like a
instructed
2-minute
them
golf
to
cart
destroy.
ride.
Is that correct?
I did not tell them that I went to the kennel. I lied about that.
And at the same time, you also looked at this jury and tried to tell them that you had been cooperative in this investigation.
Other than lying to them about going to the kennel, I was cooperative in every aspect of this investigation.
Very cooperative, except for maybe the most important fact of all, that you were at the murder scene with the victims just minutes before they died. Right?
I did not tell them that I went to the kennel.
We'll take a break at this time for about 15 minutes.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Go to the jury room. Please not discuss the case. Step down. Please do not discuss your testimony with anyone during the break. We'll be in recess for 15 minutes.
Okay. Okay, guys. His face is giving I'm fucked. Okay. Okay. So yesterday, any of you guys who did not hear the testimony or not really, up on everything that's going on here, this is murder trial gold. Most people don't even get on the stand like this. This guy decided he's going to get on the stand
on him
and
to get
defend
his
himself.
life straight. The motive was he was upset.
Hold on. Okay, sis. All right. So he gets on the stand and he tells this new story. He said that he had not been to the kennel when that evening. So he did not have himself in the place of the murder. Well, as fate would have it, Paul, who is his son Paul, was on Snapchat like most, I don't even know, are they millennials still, 20-year-olds? 22 is on Snapchat, and the Snapchat catches his father in the background. So there's no way he can say he was not down to the kennels, which he did say. He lied, said he wasn't at the kennels, but he was at the kennels because guess what? Your son, Paul, who is dead, and got shot in the head. Yeah, he got you on Snapchat. Okay. And now there's this whole elaborate story of a dog who caught a chicken and all kinds of nonsense. And basically, at the end of the day, sir, were you down to the kennels? GPS, everything has you in the location at the time that the coroner says that this would have happened. It would only be you. Your GPS coordinates from OnStar, your telemetry data from your engine, has you stopping and starting cars on certain dates and times. OnStar system has your GPS pinging at certain places at certain times. There's a lot of data supporting the fact that you were down there, not in the golf cart, but in your Suburban. You went down with the Like, why were you in a Suburban? Why didn't you just take the golf cart? Well, I guess he was going to go see his mom. They said that there was splatter residue from maybe a gun, some sort of firearm. He had one outfit on Snapchat that has conveniently disappeared. They can't find the shirt. He had on a whole nother outfit. For what he said he did when he arrived to the scene, this man had no blood on him. He had nothing on his clothes. He had a little bit of blood on his fingertip, and some blood was found in his vehicle. How was blood in your vehicle if you jumped into the vehicle, never got back into the vehicle when you discovered that your wife and your son were dead, right? Let me see. What was the question you were asking? Anyone? Let's see. Yeah. New here. Oh, hey, Taj. Taj, it's me, Fran, over from Love Lies and Lace Fronts. Welcome, Taj. Welcome over here. Any of you guys who are new over here, but not new to over there, which is my other channel, Love Lies and Lace Fronts. Look, I'm sorry. We were in the middle of a reaction this morning, and I'm sorry. Like, it was so boring, and I knew that this was getting ready to get started, and this is a lot more interesting. And this is some people who are telling lies that are being exposed, and some real shit happened in real life. And it's so much more interesting than what some of these women have going on, who are trying to create some drama. And girl, and idiots, so trying to tell a story, like, it was bad. Anyway, we were over there doing a live reaction, and it was time to go, so we cut it short over there, came over here, and we are doing kind of a live watch party to Alex on the stand, Alex Murdaugh. I would suggest, if you're not familiar with this case, if you like crime and like true crime and murder mysteries and all of those things, I would highly recommend go to my community page. I shared the link to the Netflix series. There also is a podcast called Murdaugh Murders, and there's like 75 episodes to get into. It's a lot, but you can even just Google his name and read it in any legit publications, from the New York Times to USA Today to Wall Street Journal to many, many, many publications, any news outlets. This is a huge story. This man's family is deeply embedded in this community, and he was given all kinds of privilege with law enforcement. He was a prominent attorney from a prominent family, and he was fleecing his law practice. He was stealing from his clients. Admittedly, it's not even alleged. He's admitted to, because there's really no way around it. He submitted the worksheets and the receipts and all of the things to be billed and collected. And they followed the trail of the money, and that's where it all began to unfold. What initially happened, his son got into a boating accident a couple of years ago where a young lady was killed. So it was like three couples on a boat, kind of on a night cruise. They were going from party to party and pub to pub. They were drinking. There was some argument going on, and it was alleged that Paul is the one who ran the boat into a pillar, like a highway pillar or something. He ran into a bridge, and a young lady was ejected from the boat and subsequently found 5 days later dead. And it was quite painful to the community, and Paul was getting a lot of flack for it. The Murdaughs, who is a highly influential family, used to getting law enforcement privilege because their bloodline, basically the great grandfather, and this man who's on trial right now, his father, were the prosecutors of this particular community for a total of 86 years. His father was a prosecutor for 46 years, and but he was elected. So it wasn't even almost nepotism in a way. The people of the community voted. Now, do they want to do some lengthy investigation into, ballots lost? There's areas where you've got, and this is South Carolina too. I mean, that would be, girl, I'm sure at the bottom of a ditch somewhere are some lost ballots. Okay. We're not going to even get into that because I don't even know if that's anything that they're looking into. But this family had a long history of being elected officials as basically kind of like district attorney, or they say chief solicitor there, right? And anyway, long story short, he was so anyway, he was, given a certain amount of privilege. He had a deputy badge. Yesterday he recognized that he was a deputy of this court, as a deputy solicitor. He didn't remember being sworn in. He didn't remember he was a deputy. He said he was an assistant deputy. He was given the deputy badge. He said it was just something that they would do. It was something where him and his dad could spend time together and do things together, practice law together. Like, he just got a deputy's badge just because he just got a deputy badge. Okay. So he'd been given a lot of privilege. He had law enforcement blue lights in a car he did not pay for from the law firm. I mean, to any of you guys watching this, the weird thing to me is that this man was collecting a lot of coins. He was making good money. Um, he was making good money. He was stealing a lot of money. These people were not necessarily living lavish. What do you think he was using the money for? Was he using it to fund the drug business? And if he was using it to fund a drug business, where is the money? Because even though these people had property, these people were not like living lavish. Were they spending a lot of money? It doesn't really look like it. They had some homes. It wasn't like they're living like driving around Rolls Royces and stuff like that. It just seemed like they were kind of low under the radar. It was more power and influence versus you're seeing someone, with gobbles and googles of money. So I'm not really sure what, where this money was going. Was it being buried somewhere? Is it being hidden in some sort of offshore account? I'm sure once they get into the financial trials later, um, there will be some sort of uncovering of where all of this money went. But to me, it's where's the money? That's what I would be trying to find out, is the money trail, because there is a whole drug smuggling ring allegedly that's going on. I mean, it's pretty dirty. I don't know if his son and his wife were getting ready to expose him. Was he just high on the pills? Was it insurance policies? But they're saying that he doesn't have an insurance policy. But does Buster? He's the type of person, he's going to parse the truth. So was it you? Does his son have an insurance policy on the mother and the son? Does his, who's got the insurance policy? I just don't believe that there's no insurance policy anywhere. And maybe there isn't, but maybe it was also because he was funneling so much money, he didn't need one. Girl, I'm not sure. It's quite baffling to me. But I think that once they finish up this case, I don't think they want to get too deep into the money, because at the end of the day, this is the murder trial. I think they're touching on it. But when this actually goes to trial for the money, hopefully they will have found, where the money was going that really tells the story. But that there was a text message the night, they said that after Maggie and Paul, Mag and Paw were killed, or Mags and Paw, he clicked on a text and he said, I wasn't reading any text. So instead of just saying, hey, I might have clicked on something, or I clicked on my notifications, but I was trying to make a phone call, I hadn't really read anything. I whatever. I don't know. My hands were fumbling and fidgeting, whatever. there was a text that came through that appears based on the phone forensics, was that he read a text that stated, they brought the heat from Miami, or I don't have the actual words, but something to the effect of they brought the heat from Miami. So were there some gunmen that came? If so, you didn't hear it? Or did you do it? Like, either he did it or he has knowledge, but somehow there's something, right? I wonder if he's the type that he will take the hit for this. They're going to send it to appeal, and then they're going to, when the financial case comes up, use an admission as leverage to maybe be cleared. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but I'm wondering if this is something that they could use in the future to maybe leverage in the future trials, that maybe he's just going to try as hard as he can to hold on to his face. And if he can, if whatever he gets, potentially in the future use an admission of guilt as a leverage on, but like basically they've said 99 years worth of charges. And that's on the financial crimes. If he gets life in prison, then it's not even almost relevant unless he can, get a new trial. And that's if he's found guilty, right? We haven't, uh, the arms of justice have not, completed yet. Justice has not been served one way or the other yet. We're still in the process. I'm just speaking into the future if he were found guilty, but I know how some people feel about that. We have to let the full process go, but I'm just speculating. But yeah, interesting. I don't want to broadcast this part. All right, we'll wait till they come back. I think they'll be back soon, but they're on as sure as the judge told him to not talk to anybody unless they put him somewhere by himself. If his lawyers are coming to talk to him about his Fifth Amendment, I think that he is close to breaking because his attitude is so bad. Let's see what you guys are saying. I believe they were into the money laundering. Absolutely. He was stealing money and he was sending it somewhere else. It's a bank account in Luxembourg. Oh, okay. I mean, I believe that. I believe they were into money laundering. There was another case with him that involved his college roommate stealing money from the housekeeper's family. Yes. The Satterfields, right? And he did the same scam that they did to the Satterfields. They ran the same scam on Hakeem Pinkney's family. Okay. It's in the bank account in Luxembourg. Okay, let's listen in. Let's hear what they're saying. Can we hear? Hold on.
Yeah, continuously trying to link those weapons, which they have said in the past were family weapons that the family owned or at least had access to on the property, to Alec Murdaugh. Of course, those weapons have not actually been found, the actual murder weapons, and Murdaugh, of course, saying that he was not involved. Andrea, I'm actually really curious about some points that were made yesterday on when they're going to come up as they continue to go minute by minute through this timeline of what Alec Murdaugh says happened the night of these killings. Yesterday, he spoke about the clothes that he was wearing, and prosecutors have made a big point about the fact that there was no blood on his clothes, on his shirt, or his shorts in that video, a recorded interview with law enforcement after these killings took place, whenever he called 911 and was speaking with the law enforcement right afterwards. So I'm very curious to know where they're going to take that, because Murdaugh says that he got very close to the bodies, that he attempted to, I believe, turn over Paul. So you would imagine that someone who does that would have blood all over them, especially if they're wearing a white T-shirt. But he didn't appear to have any blood on him in those videos. So I certainly expect that information is going to come back up in conversation. And for those of you who are just joining us, I mean, we can come back to some of the points that were made today as prosecutors. Again, I think really getting off to a strong start at the beginning of the day. And Murdaugh, I feel, could probably go all day as they talk about some of his financial crimes and the lies that he told the night of the killings. He has been honest, I suppose, about the lies that he did tell, saying that he did steal millions from clients, saying that he did lie to his family and law enforcement multiple times about where he was the night of the killings,
Absolutely.
including one of the biggest
I think
details.
$7 million.
Prosecutors have been emphasizing that, and I'm sure you've
No,
noticed it,
10%.
Andrea. The
It has to be
biggest
$7 million
detail, where you
cash
were
money.
the night of the killings, and the fact that he was there at the kennels, the place where those two were found dead, and that he did not say that detail. Of course, him saying that because he said he was drug use and that he was paranoid and that he didn't trust law enforcement. So as this testimony continues, I expect that we're going to hear more about those lies and what that means about his character. Prosecutors hoping that will strike a chord with jurors, and hoping that jurors will, when they're in that jury room having those discussions, that they'll be thinking about that. If this is a person who can lie to clients, who can lie to law enforcement, who can lie to his own family members, people he says that he loves, even clients, you bring up Satterfield, if you can lie to someone like that who was very just emotional on the stand, the way we were able to hear him and see him, that you'd be willing to lie to jurors sitting right there. And I think that's what they're hoping to get across.
I totally agree, Caitlin. And to talk a little, I mean, we have one smoking gun today, obviously. We knew this going into this case. We knew this from the testimony of everybody else. Everybody testified. That was, I mean, even Buster testified. That is my dad's voice on that tape. Now, of course, previously, for the last year and a half, he'd been telling everybody, and Creighton Waters pointed that out today. He said, you told Mark Ball, you told Danny Henderson, everybody that you weren't at the kennels. All of a sudden, you are changing your story. And it is
getting
that
ready to be
big
back.
evidence that he left out until yesterday that is really going to, I think, stick with the jury. If he lied about something big for a year and a half, why should we believe what he has to say now? This is live for you. You can see Judge Clifton Newman sitting back down after the recess. Creighton Waters will be stepping back up, I assume, to do the questioning. He's got all of his legal team there, though. If you look at the prosecution table on the very end with the red tie, we have John Menners right next to him. Attorney General Alan Wilson right next to him.
I remind everyone in the courtroom.
We're going to listen in to what.
Girl, they got the Attorney General up in there.
No reaction to the testimony. No jeers, cheers, no reaction at all by anyone in the courtroom. You bring the jury.
On the record before the jury comes in.
There'll be an opportunity to put something.
Girl, thank goodness we're not in the courtroom, because Judge Newman would be mad at me.
Yes, sir.
Girl, they got the whole Attorney General of the state of South Carolina there. This is huge. There was a lot of corruption. Okay, I'm just gonna say corruption. There was a egregious misuse of power and justice and privilege and monies and swindling and taking advantage of, a lot of times, people who were clearly less fortunate. It's a shame that this man is living at a damn hunting lodge with houses called, what is Alameda and Moselle, and houses with damn names. And you are stealing from quadriplegics' mothers. You are stealing from the estate of a quadriplegic who died tragically after someone unplugged his respirator. You are riding around in a Suburban after you've stolen money from car accidents, children who had families who suffered death and dismemberment, all different kinds of things. And
Thank
this
you.
man
You
is
may proceed.
proud of this. It's awful.
When you picked up that chicken, was there any blood on it?
I don't believe so.
Did you wash your hands or all?
At that point in time?
Yes, India. He is in custody. He is in
I
he
don't
has
believe that I
$7 million cash
When you
bail.
say you were there,
He's
you
not
said
going
Maggie was
anywhere.
nearby
He's
you.
in
Is that
custody.
correct?
Right by me.
Was she messing with the hose at all?
At that time, no, she was not.
Did she mess with it the entire time that you were there, according to your new facts today?
While I was there, she did not. touch. She was not fooling with a hose at all.
I'm gonna move this thing along. I'm gonna put up on the screen states 519, which is the condensed timeline. If I could have computer input, please.
But January, he didn't have a life insurance policy on his wife, but he had one on the housekeeper. Like, make it make sense. Make it make sense. Okay, I'm gonna go on mute for a bit. Okay, they're probably gonna be taking lunch. I would say probably in about an hour or so.
It's the condensed timeline, Mr. Griffin. Coming out all right. You see that up there, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yes.
All right, I'm on page 5. You see that cell tower map there?
That's up on my screen.
Yeah.
I do see that.
Would you agree with me that it reflects no cell tower activity on your phone from 6:52 to 9:04?
I do agree with that.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Murdaugh. Did you take your phone with you down to the kennels according to the new facts that you testified to yesterday and today?
I must not have.
You must not have.
If this is accurate, no, sir.
Is that typical for you?
Sure it is. Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me why that's typical.
If and when I'm going, now, it wouldn't be, it would be unusual if I was going out for any extended period of time, or if I was going, even on the property, if I was going somewhere for an extended period of time, I would usually have my phone. But for me to go knowing that I'm going to the kennel and coming right back, that's not unusual at all. I mean, you've heard the testimony about the service out there. The service is terrible. You have to be in a particular spot.
All right.
And you have to find a spot.
So the answer is you don't know whether or not you took it down there
And I believe that I probably didn't based on this data.
based on this, but unlike your photographic memory about other things, you don't remember whether or not you had your phone on you.
Mr. Waters, I've never claimed to have a photographic memory, but I do not specifically remember if I had my phone that night. I do not dispute it based on this data, and that's not unusual for me.
Just like you don't remember, according to your new story, the last conversation you had with Maggie.
No, I remember having my last conversation with Maggie.
Looking at this screen, you have the map up there. We're on page 6, and it shows you arriving back at Moselle at 6:42. You don't dispute that now, is that correct?
No, that's what this data appears to show.
And looking at the data, moving on to page 7, you have Paul arriving about 7:04. Is that correct? You don't have any reason to dispute that?
Well, that's what it says. He arrives at 4147 Moselle Road, which is the address of the shop. The house is 4157. I believe that Paul actually got there a little bit before that, but I think that's approximately accurate.
Okay.
I think Paul got there a little bit closer to 7 o'clock.
All right. You would agree that that's the earliest data point that reflects his presence in Moselle?
If that's what the records show.
You don't dispute that?
I don't dispute that if that's the earliest data point. But again, I believe he got there a little bit earlier. And I tried to look at these records to see if if that could be refuted. And I believe he got there a little closer to 7 or a little bit before 7.
No, that's a good point. You looked at these records a lot before you had your testimony yesterday and today, didn't you, Mr. Murdaugh?
I've looked at these
Ooh.
records other than the OnStar records that just came when they were provided to me. Sure, I've looked at them.
Right here, we have some steps on your phone, 29 steps. And then down at the bottom, we have 89 steps. Is that consistent when you and Paul were together on the property?
I mean, sure, we would go to different locations on the property. Sometimes we would get out, sometimes we wouldn't. We'd get out and walk around. We'd look at stuff. We'd do things. For example, you saw me messing with the tree. There'd be other ones. We may get out and look at a feeder. Maybe other ones we get out and look at hog signs where hogs are rooting. So it would be perfectly consistent with what Papa and I were doing that day.
And 8:05 to 8:09, would you agree that that's the last steps recorded on your phone before 9:02 when you become a very busy bee?
If that's what these records show. I see I took steps, these records show I took steps between 8:05 and 8:09.
All right. So would you concede then that you're at the house around 8:09?
I would have thought so, yes.
Okay. And you said Paul was already back at that point?
No, I said just the opposite.
When did he get there?
All right. You talking about when I left the shop and went to the house when Maggie was there?
Yes, before you ate dinner.
No, as I said
Or are you
earlier,
talking about after they were
Paul and I
already,
were at the
I'd already
shop.
did what I wasn't supposed to
Maggie
do. I
got
went.
home. I left Paul at the shop and I went to the house. I think you were saying that I said I met Paul at the house, and that's incorrect.
Paul was still down at the shop when you were at the house, correct?
When I first went to the house, Paul was still at the shop, I believe.
All right. And was Maggie there when you arrived at the house?
Yes, I believe she was.
All right. And 8:09 is the last steps that you have on this phone before 9:02, correct?
That's what the data shows.
Looking now at page 15. I'm sorry, page 14. Your steps that you say when you got to the house is 8:09 and Paul was still down at the shop. But don't these records reflect that Paul is pinging with GPS data at the house at 8:08?
This record appears to show Paul at the house at 8:08.
All right. So those records don't fit with your new story that you testified.
You know what,
yesterday.
Amber?
Is that
It's the
correct?
devil's in the details.
No,
He's
I don't-
trying
I don't
to,
believe
he
even
thinks
right now
everybody's
supports that that's
stupid.
right. I'm not
This is
saying
one of
what
these
you're
guys
doing
who
is
thinks
you're taking
everybody's
8:09
dumb.
and saying that I'm at the house.
And he's trying to
And, I mean,
confuse
that may or may
people
not be right,
and
but
make
what I'm
his
saying
story
is that
good. But yeah, he
when-
fucked up.
Maggie came through, I left, and I believe that Paul stayed at the shop. Now, did Paul come right behind me? I'm not sure, but when I left him, I believe that when I left to go to the house, I believe that Paul stayed at the shop for a minute.
When you got to the house, did you put your phone down?
I'm sure I did.
Did you put it in the car, in the Suburban?
Did I put it in the Suburban?
When you got back to the house, did you put it in the Suburban? Was the Suburban parked out front?
The Suburban would have been parked wherever I parked it,
Which is where?
I believe on the side.
Okay. And did you put your phone in the Suburban?
At that time, no, I did not.
Where'd you put it?
I'm not sure where I put it.
You're not sure about that either, huh?
No, I'm not sure. When I went in the house, I'm not sure where I put my phone. I would think that I put it down somewhere, probably by the couch.
Didn't you testify yesterday when you were being asked by your lawyer about that pause at Alameda when you were leaving, and you had a very specific recollection of your phone had fallen down in the crevice and you had to pick it up and get it out? You remember testifying to that?
I do.
But you don't remember what you did with your phone when you got back at this point, huh?
I mean, Mr. Ward, those are two distinct, different things. I'm coming in the house and I put my phone down. I don't have a routine spot that I put it in right on this corner or right there. You know, I would assume that when I went in the house, I put it somewhere either on the table, you go by, going to the couch. I may have taken it to the bathroom. When I took a shower, it may have taken me a few minutes to go to the shower. So I can't tell you exactly where I put it.
That console story is an awful specific recollection when you need it to try to make the news story that this jury's hearing and everyone's hearing yesterday and today with the data, correct? But you're awful fuzzy on far more important things, aren't you, Mr. Murdaugh?
Which question? Here, I'll answer the first one first. No, I don't believe that's convenient, and I disagree with your categorization of the description.
All right, but you remember the console story, but you don't remember where you put your phone, whether or not you took it down to the kennels, whether it was in, you put it in the Suburban. Don't remember any of that, but dadgummit, you remember that console story, correct?
Well, I don't remember the console story, but you know, in that Suburban, and it's not the first time that it happened, but when that phone got down there, you had to go to great efforts to get it out, and you couldn't just reach over there and get it out.
All right, you say when you got to the house that Maggie was already there?
Yes.
Okay. And we saw your last steps were at 8:09.
Well, that's what you saw when this data recorded my last steps. But as you heard this testimony too, Mr. Waters, you know, that's not a precise, that's not a precise, you heard the testimony, you know what it is.
Well, how did you get back to the house?
What witness gets away with
From the
talking
shop,
this way?
I went in a white pickup truck.
Went in the white pickup truck. Okay. And when you got into the house, where did you go?
We've already discussed this. I took a shower, whether I did things for a moment before I went to the shower. I'm sure I talked to Maggie because she'd been gone. And if she came through the kennel, which I believe she did, we only talked briefly. So I would have talked to her, but I would have quickly gone to take a shower.
Okay. Going over to page 16.
I would love to hear the state's attorney ask him, Alex, tell me what you think happened to your son and your wife. Tell me what you think happened. Who did it? Who should be on the stand except for you? I got you on the stand, but who needs to be here?
I don't see that, but I don't dispute it.
Well, you see the purple line talking about it disconnecting from the Mercedes.
I
and
do
then if you
see,
go
I
down
see,
to-
I see where you're talking about. So yeah, I
Yeah.
see it. 8:17, her phone starts logging steps. I agree with that.
Okay. So would you concede that that appears to be when she arrived?
No, I don't believe that's when she arrived. I believe that, I mean, it was very normal for Maggie when she's driving to jump out of the car, run inside, go to the bathroom, do things, and either send me or Paul or go back or Buster or go back to her car herself and unplug her phone. So, I mean, I agree that's when her phone's unplugged, but I believe that Maggie got to the house a little bit before that. That's the whole reason why Paul and I went to the house.
Okay. But you're saying Paul arrived after Maggie. Is that what you're saying? At the house? at
I
this point
believe
in
so,
time?
yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what I recall. And Paul arrived at the house after I arrived at the house, I believe. And
Yes,
if
he
Paul got
admitted to
the
lying.
house
He did go to the
around
kennel because
about the
there's
same time, he wasn't inside with Maggie and I when I
At
went to
8:08?
get to the shower.
so he did say he hadn't gone to the kennel, but the revelation yesterday was that when they presented the Snapchat video, yeah, he couldn't lie about that because it's time stamped and it's uploaded to Snapchat and all of those things. He was in a video that he could not lie about with the story that he never went to the kennels because he was at the kennels. He was there. His son took a Snapchat video, so he had to admit to it.
Blue dot right there in the middle of the house, don't we?
Yeah, that's what these records show.
Okay.
And it also shows that circle that folks testified to what the range of what it could
Yeah, absolutely.
be within. So, I mean, it clearly could be.
Look at that circle. Look at what's right in the middle of that circle. Almost like somebody drew a circle around the house, don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. But also in that circle is where you would park a truck if you pulled up.
All right.
So, and I'm not saying that he wasn't in the house at some point in time there, but when I went to get in the shower, he wasn't in the house. And he very easily could have been there and been parked in the yard.
All right. You agree at the bottom of page 16 that about 8:30 Maggie starts tracking steps again on her phone?
Yes, sir. That's what the data shows.
All right. Oops, hit the wrong button. And you would agree with me that about 8:38, Paul's phone shows him back up at the kennels.
Well, yes, sir. I agree that at 8:38, let me see which one. It's hard for me to figure out which one of these rings, but at 8:38, it shows Paul in whichever one of those rings is 56 meters wide. And I have no reason to believe he wasn't at the kennel.
And then 8:44:55.
Yes, Nicole, it'll stay up. Absolutely. And
Yes, sir,
yesterday's
that's
are up too.
You would agree with me that it lasts about 50 seconds, correct?
Yes, sir. I agree with that.
And you would agree with me, moving on to page 19, that both Maggie and Paul's phones locked for the final time around 8:49.
That's what the data shows.
After that, you agree that Maggie's phone around 8:53 shows some steps being taken?
That's what the data shows. Yes, sir.
Data doesn't show who's carrying it, but that's what it shows. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you would agree with me that from 9:02 to 9:06, your phone finally comes to life and starts showing a lot of steps.
I do agree with that.
What were you doing?
I was getting ready to go to my mom's house.
Getting ready to go? I thought you took a shower already. You were just laying down on the couch. What all you need to do to get ready to go to your mom's house?
I mean, there wasn't anything to get ready in that aspect, but
Wasn't anything to get
I
ready,
was
was it?
getting ready to go. I was preparing to leave.
Doing what?
I don't know if I got up, went to the bathroom. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what I was doing.
That's far more steps in a shorter time period than any time prior, as you've seen from the testimony in this case. So what were you so busy doing?
That's,
Going to the bathroom?
no, I don't think that I
Get on a
went to
treadmill?
the bathroom. No, I didn't get on a treadmill.
Jogging place?
Nope, I didn't jog in
Jumping
place.
jacks?
No, sir, I did not do jumping jacks.
What were you doing, Mr. Murdaugh, for those 4 minutes?
Preparing to leave for my mom's house.
What? What does that mean? I mean, you're in the front room on that couch where you say you laid down. The Suburban's just right outside. What all are you doing?
I don't know if I got up and went to my room, went to the gun room, went back in that.
Doing what? You've been so clear in your new story about everything. What were you doing during these 4 minutes?
I disagree with your assertion about every detail. I don't recall. I know that I was getting up and I was leaving. I was going to check on my mom. But specifically what I was doing, I don't know. I know what I wasn't doing, Mr. Waters, and what I wasn't doing is doing anything, as I believe you've implied, that I was cleaning off or washing off guns, putting guns in a raincoat, and I can promise you that I wasn't doing any of that.
Okay. Also, during this 4 minutes where you've got 283 steps, not only are you moving around a lot, but you're making a ton of phone calls. Because that in that same time period, you see this red line right here, where over that 4 minute period, all those steps were taken. That's also when you're calling, making all these phone calls, isn't it, Mr. Murdaugh?
Well, I made the
So
phone
when you
call.
call-
Make a
Please make
left
phone
and then
calls
make a
to-
right and then come down the dirt
You'll have
road.
to answer before Mr.
Um,
Waters steps on him again with another question.
There'll be a duffel bag behind the
Please.
bushes.
Thank you.
I'm just joking.
All right.
You were making all these phone calls while you were taking all these steps. Would you concede that? Where you don't remember what you were doing?
Well, I was making phone calls and that shown here. At 9:05, I called my dad. You know, I don't know that I was taking steps like you're saying I'm taking steps. I heard the same testimony you heard, Mr. Waters, and, you know, steps can be recorded any number of ways. I don't have a specific recollection of walking around. I don't know if I was hitting my phone like the guy showed or doing whatever that makes steps, but, you know.
So you were hitting your phone like that while you were making all these phone calls?
Hang on, no, sir. What I'm saying, Mr. Waters, I don't know that.
Um,
I'm just giving you an example.
They were
You're
both
saying
shot with
that I'm running
rifles,
around
two different
taking these
guns.
steps, and while I'm doing that, I'm making telephone calls.
Son
What I
had a
will
shot
agree
to the
with
head. I
is
think
that
mom did too.
This data shows that there was 283 steps recorded on my phone. And sometime during that period, I made certain phone calls.
Okay. All right. So not only for whatever it is recording steps, but you're also making a ton of phone calls, including missed calls to Maggie, who is 1,100 feet away, supposedly.
You're using the term a ton of phone calls.
Yeah.
What I agree is that I made the phone calls that are listed on these call data.
Dad
records,
passed away.
which,
He had some sort of
are very normal
cancer,
phone calls
lung
for me.
cancer or something.
Do you know why so many phone calls were missing from the log around this relevant time period when law enforcement downloaded your phone on June 10th?
From my phone?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Did you delete them, Mr. Murdaugh?
Not intentionally.
Just around the time of June 7th, all these calls are missing, but you had nothing to do with that between June 7th and June 10th.
No, sir, I did not. And I did not delete phone calls from my phone. Mr. Waters, one of the most important things in this whole thing for me has been getting this data that I believe would exist. Phone calls and phone records would be part of that. I've been in enough civil cases and used phone records enough times to know that you delete a phone call from your phone, it doesn't disappear. So I can tell you, this jury, and everybody who's listening, that I did not intentionally delete phone calls from my phone.
Yeah, because you started talking about you're a former prosecutor, correct? And former lawyer doing civil cases. We went through that yesterday. And boy, you're busy bee on that phone and right out of the gate at 9:02, right?
Objections overruled.
Am I a busy bee?
Yeah.
I am using my telephone at, I think I call at 9:05, I start and call my dad, and I agree that I made other phone calls.
And one of the first things you start talking about with law enforcement is these calls that you made to Maggie, correct? You recall that from your first statement to law enforcement?
One of the first things that I said to law enforcement,
Yeah, that's one of the things you talk about. I'm talking about with your interview with Special Agent Dave Owen.
I don't remember that being the first thing we talked about, but
First things.
if Mr. Owens asked me about it, then
No, you brought
Sure.
it up, didn't you?
I did.
You don't recall?
No, I don't recall.
Darla, it's 5 o'clock
You
somewhere
said you
though.
brought it up.
That I brought up, brought
Your
up what?
phone, Mr. Murdaugh, your phone.
Phone calls to Maggie?
Yes.
that I brought up phone calls to Maggie to David Owens.
I'm asking you, is that one of the things that you talked about in your first interview with Dave Owen? That you pulled out your phone and started looking at it, that you brought that up? Do you recall that?
Well, but that's not what you asked, Mr. Owens. You asked me, was that the first thing that I talked to him about? And that was the discrepancy. I certainly don't dispute that Mr. Owens and I talked about phone calls. But that's not what you said, so just to be clear.
Well, the real reason, Mr. Murdaugh, is that you as a lawyer and prosecutor are up at 9:02, finally having your phone in your hand, moving around and making all these phone calls to manufacture an alibi. Is that not true?
That's absolutely incorrect.
So that's just another circumstance and coincidence in this particular case. Right around the time that you lied to law enforcement about maybe one of the most important facts in the case.
The lie detector determined.
Before the question.
It is an absolute fact that I am not manufacturing an alibi, as you say.
How do you remember so much detail about everything else, but you don't remember what you were specifically doing to generate 283 steps while you're making all these phone calls in the same 4-minute period?
I remember unequivocally, without any doubt, with as clear a mind as I could have at any time, that I never manufactured any alibi in any way, shape, or form, because I did not and would not hurt my wife and my child.
Kill
So
your
I know
wife
for a
and kill your
fact
son.
that I never, ever, ever created an alibi.
Why don't you remember what you were doing when you
I
were
just-
so busy for this 4-minute critical period?
I do
Other
remember
than
what I was doing.
Other than I was getting ready to go.
Well, that's because that's what I was doing.
Okay, Nicole. Buster is thinking, how do I keep Brooklyn from leaving me? If Brooklyn is the name of his baby mama, he's probably nervous right now. He's probably trying to think, how can he hold on to his girlfriend and his baby
Made
mama?
those calls to Maggie in that 4-minute period. You had just seen them a few minutes ago when you say you went down there and came right back. Why didn't you just take that quick little left 1,100 yards away and stop by? See why they didn't answer the call. You're obviously wanting to get in touch with them. Why didn't you go down to the kennels that were so close by?
There was no reason to. I mean,
Making multiple missed calls to Maggie, and she's so close. And there's a driveway right there. Why do you not just go down there and say, hey, guys, I'm heading over there?
it wasn't important to do that. Me making those phone calls is simply me letting, I believe I called Maggie and I believe I called Paul, but that's simply me just letting them know that I'm leaving for a minute, I'll be back. The fact that they don't answer is not unusual at all. Now, it is odd, it is unusual that they never call me back.
Because they were dead,
But at that
according
moment,
to the
fact that
timeline.
there's a missed call, when I know they're on the property, I mean, that doesn't even register at all. That's perfectly normal to try to call somebody who's on the property and not be able to get them. And as far as not going down there, there was no sense of urgency. Maggie was with Paul, you know?
I came
She
and
should
go
be
as
as safe
pleased. I didn't answer to them.
as she could be.
They were used to me disappearing. Remember, I was a pillhead drug addict. They didn't count on me for nothing but a paycheck. I'm just an awful husband. I just disappear and then I come back and I don't help out. I don't do anything.
Did you talk with Maggie about going?
It's like, damn, sir, did you
Alameda
not do anything around that house?
No, I don't believe I did.
Did you talk with Maggie about going to Alameda during supper?
They were unalive.
I know that we had talked about it. I had talked, I don't believe we talked about it at supper, but we may have. I know that I had talked about that I was going to go over there. And then I decided that I wasn't going to go over there.
So what was your conversation at supper? Tell me specifically, if you could, please.
I
About
can't,
going to Alameda.
I can't tell you that we specifically talked about it. The only thing that I can tell you we specifically talked about at supper was Paw Paw.
Okay.
And what was the conversation?
I don't remember.
Maggie was just concerned. Paul had been having, for a young person, Paul had been having high blood pressure. And
Boy,
he was
stop
very
it.
resistant to go to the doctor. And this has been going on for a little while, but lately Paul's feet has,
Hey, Miss Lady.
for a 22-year-old to have start having swollen feet, concerned both of us, and it particularly concerned Maggie. And we talked about that.
Okay. Did y'all talk about Mr. Randolph at all?
Paul.
I'm sure we did.
Paul's name's Paul.
Do you remember that group text coming in about whether or not anybody was going to go see Mr. Randolph at the hospital the next day?
Do I remember it coming in?
Yeah.
I don't remember it coming in,
Because
but
you didn't read it till the next day. But
I've seen the data.
why didn't you? Did you ever text the group and say you were going to Alameda at all?
No,
Did Maggie
No, I
ever,
just came and
did you and
go as
Maggie
I
ever
pleased.
specifically discuss her going along with you to Alameda?
I don't believe that we did. I know that there was a point in time where I said Maggie might go, but it's highly unusual for Maggie to go and visit just my mom. That whole situation, it just made Maggie sad, and she didn't like to go. So
You
I don't believe that we did, but I do acknowledge that at some point I said she might go for some reason.
You told law enforcement on multiple occasions that, first of all, Maggie was planning to stay at Edisto the night of June 7th, correct?
I did say that.
All right. And you also said that you came to find out that she came home of her own accord, correct? You told that to law enforcement. Is that true?
She did come home of her own accord.
That she decided on her own to come home because she was worried about you. Isn't that what you said?
I did say that, and I believe that to be the case.
All right. But since despite what you told law enforcement, we've since seen the text that you actually called her and asked her to come home on the night of June 7th.
No, sir, that's not correct.
That's not correct?
No, sir, that's absolutely not correct.
All right. So you heard your sister-in-law, Marion, testify to just that fact of a conversation she had with Maggie, but you're saying that's not true?
I don't believe that's what Marion said.
All right. And your defense put in this exhibit 107, where Maggie texted Blanca and said, Alec wants me to come home.
I've seen that. I agree with that.
Is that it up on the screen? Oh, I've got the wrong input here. I'll just hold it up. You've seen this text?
I have seen that. Mr. Waters, the only dispute I have with what you're saying is you're saying that I called Maggie and wanted her to come home. I always wanted Maggie to come home, and I would have talked to Maggie about coming home before she ever left to go to Charleston and to Edisto. And I can tell you this, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I realize it now, that Maggie was already undecided. Now, I didn't know this, but Maggie was already undecided about staying at Edisto. I can promise you that, because Bubba and Grady were in their kennels, as y'all well know, that night. That day, if Maggie was certain that she was spending the night at Edisto, at a minimum, Bubba would have been with her, and probably both dogs would have been with her. It was very unusual for her to spend the night anywhere without one of us or those dogs. So that tells me that when she left that morning, she was already seriously thinking about coming back.
So you're saying that you never called her and had a conversation that day asking her to come home specifically on the night of June 7th, 2021?
Maggie and I had a couple of phone conversations that day. What I'm telling you is that before she
Should I?
left, no, I don't believe we had a phone call about that. We may have
So
discussed it during the
Paul,
phone call, but I didn't make a phone call to her
is
to
Paul.
ask her to come home.
Okay,
I had
Paul
already
Murdaugh.
told her I
Murdaugh.
wanted her to come home.
Paul
I always
Murdaugh
wanted her to come
is
home.
the
You heard
son who
Marion
was
say that
murdered.
too.
Paul.
That I always wanted
Yes,
Maggie
Paul.
with
There
me.
you go.
Maggie
I
followed
felt like
up
I'd said that like a
talked
bunch of
about it with
times,
Marion.
but Paul Buster
In
is
fact, I wanted
Randolph,
her to come home.
Correct.
or what is
Well,
his name?
sure.
Let me
I
see
mean,
what
that's
Buster's
what
actual
Marion
government
said.
name is.
So you're denying that you called Maggie and specifically asked her to come home that night?
I didn't make a phone call to Maggie to ask her to come home that night. I asked Maggie to come home long before she ever left.
Oh, Brooklyn.
And I probably asked her again each time I talked to her, but I didn't make the phone call specifically for that, as you're saying. And to be clear, I'm certain that if Maggie was certain that she was spending the night, Bubba would have been with her and probably Grady.
All right. Why did you tell law enforcement, though, that you found out after the fact that Maggie wanted to come home because she was concerned about you? Why'd you phrase it that way if what you're saying to the jury now was accurate? Why would you phrase it that way?
Because I believe that to be the case.
That you found out afterwards, but now you're saying you knew.
No, I'm saying I found out afterwards why she came home, Mr. Waters. And she came home because she was worried about me.
Boy,
So I want to be clear about that. I did not learn that until I think the day after she got killed.
But you're saying that you found out that after the fact, but you're telling this jury that you knew the things that you just said about her wanting to come home. And you were unaware of what Marion would say at that point either.
No, I'm saying at that time, I had not thought about Bubba and Grady. Since that time, I've thought about that. I'm certain of that. At the time, I thought Maggie was staying at Edisto. All right. She was going to Edisto to meet the people, to do the work. Maggie loved to stay at Edisto. There's no doubt about that. It would not be unusual at all for her to stay at Edisto. But just like every other time, I had already asked her, please come back, come back. Always wanted her to stay with me. Always. But I did not learn about, and Maggie even texted me, I'll see you in a few hours. But I did not know why she decided to come back until later. That's what I'm saying. And I learned it from Blanca. Blanca actually showed me the text that she sent her talking about being worried about me.
You would agree with me that you sent a text to Maggie at 9:08:58 while in motion in the Suburban, as reflected by the data?
I do. Which was because I couldn't reach them by the telephone and I wanted them to know where I was.
Okay.
Which is what we do.
And you got to Alameda around 9:22?
I believe that's correct.
I can go down to it.
No, I don't have any reason to dispute that.
Made some more phone calls along the way.
I did make more phone calls along the way while I was riding.
Call Chris Wilson.
I did call Chris Wilson.
Had a short conversation with him. Is that right?
I did have a conversation for however long the record show,
About 131 seconds. That sound about right?
if that's what the record show, 2 minutes.
Called your brother, John Marvin, for about 106 seconds, including connection time. Does that sound about right?
That does sound about right.
Arrived at 9:22. Does that sound about right?
It does.
And then at 9:24, you call, that's the landline at Alameda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you went inside. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Talked to
right.
Miss Shelley.
That's right. I called the house phone to get Shelley to let me in.
And when you were asked by law enforcement how long you were at your mother's house, you said 45 minutes to an hour. Isn't that correct?
I think I said a couple of different things, but I think at one time I did say that. But, you know, routinely through this thing, I kept saying, you know, when you get this data, you'll see exactly. When you look at my phone, you'll see exactly. When you do, you know, so, you know, me giving the times was always given with the thought that, okay, that there's OnStar out there, there's whatever.
But when you had a conversation with Miss Shelley after the fact, you actually asked her to say that you were there longer than 20 minutes.
You know, I heard Shelley's testimony. I believe Shelley to be a good person. I wasn't trying to influence Shelley on any particular length of time because at the beginning of this, I believed that data would show what data would show. And for me to tell her to say something when my OnStar is going to show something different just doesn't make any sense. So, you know, I can't answer that. What my recollection is that I told Shelley that law enforcement would be talking to her. We may have discussed how long I was there. At that point in time, if I thought I was there 45 minutes, I may have said I was here 45 minutes, but, you know, I can't tell you.
All right. And that's the same thing that Blanca testified to, that you talked to her about the clothes that you were wearing. It made her uncomfortable, correct?
Ask that question again.
It's similar to your conversation with Blanca that she testified about when you talked to her about the clothes that you were supposedly wearing. And it made her feel uncomfortable. Do you remember that testimony, sir?
What's similar to that?
Well, that you're talking to both of these individuals about their testimony in a manner that's inconsistent with what they know.
No, I don't think your assertion is accurate. You have to understand this. On August the 11th, when I went to meet with David Owens, and in that, David Owens asked me about, he showed me that Snapchat and asked me about clothes that I had on. And shortly after that, the next time I was with Blanca, I asked Blanca about those clothes because David Owens had asked me about them and made an issue about it. And so I checked with Blanca to see what I specifically asked Blanca, and it was an issue to me. So I got Blanca and I said, I need you to
Michelle,
sit down and talk with me
Shelley
about this. This
is
is important. Do
Michelle.
you remember
I can't remember her last name, but she is
my
the home
clothes
health aide that was
when you came to
caring
Moselle
for
that
his
day? And
ailing mother. She had
remembered
Alzheimer's.
exactly what
So
she
Shelley
testified
is
to. She
the
remembered that
overnight
my pants were there.
nurse.
She wasn't sure if the shirt was there. At that time, I think she actually thought the shirt was there, but she was clear that she wasn't sure about that. No, she wasn't unsure, but she didn't remember, but assumed that it was. So that was the conversation and why I was asking Blanca.
Well, again, you're very specific about your memories of that conversation. Is that correct, Mr. Murdaugh?
You dang right. I'm consistent about that, because a very short time before that, David Owens is asking me questions and telling me I'm a suspect in the murder of my wife and my child, and asking me about my clothes. You dang right it was important.
It was important, right?
And you dang right I remember why I went to her and for what reason.
Because the only thing you're concerned about is yourself. You're not concerned about giving accurate information to law enforcement, correct?
Ooh.
What's the reason for that, Mr. Murdaugh? Why don't you want to give accurate information to law enforcement? Why do you want to talk to these women who both are employed by you or your family and try to influence what they are going to say?
I did want to give law enforcement accurate information. I told a lie about being down there, and I got myself wed to that. But I wanted to give them as much. I knew that I hadn't done this, and I wanted to give them as much accurate information as I could. But the reason I went to Blanca is specifically because David Owens talking to me on August the 11th.
So you told the lie, you were married to the lie. He said he was wed to the lie, and then you needed to make sure that people kind of wiggled in your direction so that they could corroborate your lie.
942 to 943.
I do.
Turned on Moselle about 10.
Turned into Moselle at 10:01.
Yeah, sorry.
It looks to me like I turned into Moselle at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock on the dot, sorry.
Yes, sir.
At the house at 10:05.
Yes, sir.
And then that's when you went back to the kennels after you came back from Alameda, correct?
I went to the kennels after I went to the house at, I went from Alameda to the house, to the kennels.
And we got to the scene. You got out of the car, according to what you told law enforcement repeatedly, and went and checked the bodies, correct? Before you called 911. Is that correct?
No, sir, that's not correct.
You're saying you didn't say that to law enforcement?
I don't know what I said to law enforcement, Mr. Waters, but I can tell you this. I pulled up and I saw Mags and Pawpaw. I jumped out of that car. I know that I went back to my car and I called 911 as quickly as I could. That point in time, when I got on the phone, then is when I went to them and did the things that I did. So what you're saying is not accurate.
You're saying that you didn't say very specifically to law enforcement that you went to them prior to calling 911.
When?
after you got out of the car,
Oh,
you
he's
told law enforcement
awful.
repeatedly that you went over and checked the bodies before you called 911.
No, I
That's
don't-
what he said. He said it was like about 20 seconds.
If I did say
He
that,
jumped
I
out,
don't
he
believe
went,
that's
he
accurate.
looked, he tried to turn him
Did I
over,
check
and then he
Maggie and Paul
called.
before I called 911?
Correct.
No, sir. That's
Oh
not-
my
that's not right.
God, he
That's
said
not
that
accurate. At
yesterday.
least that's not what I remember.
That's not what you remember saying.
Oh my
or that's not
God,
what
he's
you
such
say
a
now happened?
wow.
The lie detector determined
That's not what I believe happened.
Okay, but you don't deny.
Does
that's
he
what you
is he
said.
really nuts?
Did I check Maggie and Paul before I called 911?
Correct.
I don't believe that's what I said.
I hope they read back his testimony. Can they please read the testimony back from yesterday? He said he jumped out the car. It was probably 20 seconds. Look at his lawyers looking like, oh,
Yeah, I know I
shiznit.
checked them, but I don't believe I checked them before I called
Man,
911.
shut up. Like he's a mess. This is awful. His lawyers just look like, oh shiznit.
Because I can pretty well remember vividly.
Is he trying to get like a dementia case
I
or
checked
something
Paw,
that he's not mentally sound or
already on the
mentally
phone
fit?
with
Because this is
911.
ridiculous. He said he jumped out the car.
Looking at this data,
He said it was like about 20 seconds. He tried to turn Paul over, even though he said he could see his brain.
to show the vehicle parking at 10:05 and 55 seconds,
Yes, sir.
and 10:05:57.
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.
Suburban arrives at the kennels. You agree with that?
I'm sorry, say that again, Mr. Waters.
At 10:05:57, it shows the Suburban arriving at the kennels.
Okay.
Yes, I remember that.
911 call
Mhm.
was at 10:06:14,
Okay.
just about 20 seconds later. You agree with that?
I think that sounds right. Yes, sir. I mean, that makes sense. But that goes back to what I'm saying is I pulled up. I saw them. And I know I jumped out of my car. But I believe that before I checked them, in fact, I'm almost certain that then I went back and I got that's when I went and got my phone and I called 911.
Okay.
And
When did
then,
you put your
after I
badge in the
called 911,
dashboard?
There was a little while where there wasn't, I don't think there was anything going on. And I believe that is the time period that I went and checked on them.
It's like, if you guys ever watched the Jody Adias case, the Jody Adias, the Jody,
Now that we have this data, that's not exactly how you expressed it to law enforcement in your prior statements. Is that correct?
No,
was
sir,
it
I
Jody
disagree with
Adias?
that. I totally disagree with that, Mr. Waters. Will you point to what you're talking about?
It's Jody Arias, right? Jody. She kept telling different stories. Jody Arias, yeah. She kept telling different stories, and finally she admitted. He literally might just be a pathological liar, like for real. He might just be like the personification of the boy, of Pinocchio. Uh-oh, here comes a late minute document. Wait. Oh, okay. So I'm like, there it is. There it is. Okay. I highlighted it in double yellow. There it is. Here we go. I love this. This whole interrogation is posted. I'll find it for you guys and post it on my community wall. This is like, is this the day of or the day after? He says he has pills in his pocket at that moment, by the way. Okay, here we go.
All right, sir. I do. I'm at the house about the watch.
12:57.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, state your full name for me, please.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
Murdaugh.
And spell your last name so it'll be correct.
Murdaugh.
All right. And you go by Alec?
Yes, sir.
And date of birth, Mr. Murdaugh?
May 27th, 1968.
He's 53. He's
803
54.
942 1227.
And sir, what was your name?
Yeah, Danny Henderson.
Okay.
Who, the guy in the back seat? Girl, I don't even know. He said Danny Anderson.
All right.
I'm gonna look him up.
David Owen in Lower Rutland with Colleton County. I'm misled. I hate to have to do this.
I understand.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
So you don't have any problem with it.
So just start at the top, take your time.
Like when I came back here, I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. And my boy over there, I could see it was. And I could see his brain on. And I ran over to Maggie. And, actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. I tried to turn him over, and I don't know. I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started to try to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly. Then I went to my wife, and I could see.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both.
Okay.
I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them. And, I called 911 pretty much right away, and she was very good. I told her I was going to get off the phone to call some family. I did that.
What family members did you call?
I called my brother Randy, and I called my brother John. And I tried to call a little boy, a real good friend that's right around the corner from here, but I didn't get him.
He would need to stop making all that nasty noise.
That's correct. But going back to your question, I mean, that's the way I remember it, what I said right there. And your question about did I do these things before I called 911?
Hey, Derek Carpay.
That's
Hey,
not
boo
what I
boo.
said then. And that's not what I remember now.
So you're saying now that you went out, you checked, you came back, got your phone, and that's when you called 911?
I'm not saying that now, Mr. Woods. I am saying that now, but to me, that's what I said then.
I'm not saying that now, but I'm saying that now.
I told her, I called 911 right away.
That's what I meant.
There was no time to do the things that I'm talking about doing in the time between getting there and calling 911.
When you talked about calling Rogan, and you said that he lived right around the corner, correct?
That's correct.
But Rogan wasn't staying there at the time. That's the whole reason that Cash was at your kennel, right? You knew that.
Well, Rogan was staying in Buford a lot, but he was home a lot too. I didn't know where Rogan was on a daily basis.
About keeping his dog Cash at the kennels when he was staying with his girlfriend and working down in Buford?
Yes, he had asked me that. But I mean, that had been some time before. I didn't know. You're making a big deal about this, Mr. Waters, but that particular night, I didn't have a clue where Rogan was staying or not staying. I was trying to find somebody to come out there with me. I'd called Randy, I'd called John, and Rogan was the next best alternative.
Okay.
And Rogan is so close. I mean, Rogan, of all these kids that you've heard, Rogan, Gibson, I mean, Roro is like a Rogan. You prefer when I call him Rogan, is truly like a son to Maggie and I. And he was such a good friend to Buster, and he was such a good friend to Paul. And you've been through everything I have. You'll see that 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to this, I ran out of gas when Bus and Paw weren't home. And Rogan's the person that I called to bring me gas.
Rogan's also the one that had the Snapchat video of
that Rogan
Alex in there
would have helped you.
at the kennel.
Let me keep playing
Was
this.
around, Paul, when you walked up?
Blood.
Anything else?
I mean, there were some body things, yes, sir.
I mean, like any other evidence? I know you said the phone fell out of the pocket, but did you see anything else that didn't belong or shouldn't belong or that wasn't part of Paul?
No, sir, not. No, sir.
How about Maggie?
No, sir.
You didn't see anything around them? What made you come out here tonight?
My mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover, and she fools with the dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house.
You just testified that in the wake of this, you didn't know what you said to law enforcement. That was what you just said.
No, I mean, I know a lot of what I said to law enforcement, but there's a lot of things in looking back at this video for one, the 911 call for one. I mean, there's a lot of things that I didn't remember.
Okay. But right then and there, just not long into this interview, you made a conscious decision to lie right there.
Play that again.
You said, I was at the house.
And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house. I left the house. played?
You want me to back it up some more?
Well,
Yeah, we can keep listening to it.
Anything around now? What made you come out here tonight?
I went to, my mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover. And she with dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house.
You want to hear it again?
No, sir, but I don't
So you made a conscious decision to lie right there, this early into an interview, sitting in the front seat, correct?
It's
don't
like he
believe
asked,
so.
what made you come
Didn't
down
make a
here?
conscious
Well,
decision to
Maggie's a
lie?
dog
I don't
lover,
believe that.
and
I don't
like,
believe
can
that
you
was
answer the question?
lying at that point.
Okay, tell me why not.
Because Maggie had gone to the kennels and I was at the house.
Okay. So you think you were that was not a lie at that point?
I don't believe so at that
At
point.
what point did you decide to lie?
I'm not sure, but it was in that.
It was in this interview?
I believe that it was.
Okay, was this interview where you're sitting in the front seat, correct?
It is.
You're not in custody, correct?
I'm not in custody.
They're giving you water, letting you chew tobacco, treating you politely, correct?
They were treating me very politely.
So what was it that clicked? So you said in this interview that it clicked that I'm gonna lie about the most important fact that I know?
I'm not sure exactly when in it that I decided to lie, but I believe it was during this interview. I believe all those things that I talked about, those things that had gone on, the things that people had said to me about don't talk to anybody without a lawyer. Partners all told me that, or a lot of my partners told me that. My dear friend, Chief Alexander, was one that said that. I overheard, I believe it was Sheriff Hill, I'm not positive. I overheard him tell, I believe Mark Ball or Gray Holmes, don't let him talk to anybody without a lawyer. And
So the
what I
lawyer doesn't
believe
know not to
is
talk to anybody without a lawyer?
based on my distrust of SLED and getting in that interview, and I'm not positive about this, but I believe when he asked me, about my relationship with my wife and my son, I believe that's when I decided to lie.
You
But I'm
also
not
left
positive.
out when you had the GSR too, because that's what you testified to yesterday.
That certainly contributed.
And your dope paranoia too. You said that as well, correct?
Well, those things are what triggered the paranoia that started as my addiction evolved.
And so you're an experienced lawyer and you've been a prosecutor, and you took the advice of your law partners that you should have a lawyer there, as you read that as, oh, I should lie.
No, that's not an accurate.
Because that's not what
statement.
that means, is it, Mr. Murdaugh?
Well, that's not an accurate statement, what you just said, Mr. Waters.
I just repeated what you just said. You said it was one of the factors was your law partners, and now you're blaming Sheriff Hill and Greg Alexander told you that you needed a lawyer before you talked to police, and you took that somehow as meaning I need to lie
No,
as a lawyer and a prosecutor?
no, that's what you said, Mr. Waters, but
How am I mischaracterizing it from your perspective, Mr. Murdaugh? Because I think isn't that what you heard? Isn't that what you just said? Excuse me.
no, sir, that's not what I said.
All right,
So,
well, say it again.
I believe those guys were trying to help me. I believe they cared about me. I believe they thought that I was in a condition such that I shouldn't talk to anybody. I mean, those guys had to prop me up, help me get myself together just to be able to go talk to David Owens. I mean, they were trying to help me. But before that, that was just one of the many things that I believe led to that situation sitting in there where those paranoid thoughts came to me. Them talking about not talking to anybody without a lawyer, Brian Murdaugh, checking my hands, the fact that I got a pocket full of pills in my pocket. I was the person who found Maggie and Paul. My distrust for SLED. all of those factors combined and made me decide to lie. I also know him asking me about Maggie and Paw contributed to that paranoia. All I'm saying is, I'm not disputing that I lied. I'm just saying at this point, you're saying I made a conscious decision to lie here, and I'm saying I don't think I made a conscious decision right there.
No, I just
I believe
lie.
so.
Had you already had your
It wasn't
GSR down at
conscious.
this
I
point?
just lie
Yes,
automatic.
sir.
Okay.
I had.
And you already talked to your law partners and talked to and heard Sheriff Hill. Now you're blaming him and
I'm not-
blaming
no.
Chief Alexander now as well for your lies.
No, sir, Mr. Waters.
You just added that one. You didn't say that yesterday. You just added that one.
Be given an opportunity to answer the question. Objection.
Not lie on the fly.
That's your last answer.
Mr. Waters, I'm not blaming anybody. I accept full responsibility for what I did. What I'm saying is what I believe contributed to me doing that and the reason why I did that. I think those folks were trying to help me. So I don't blame them.
The lie detector determined that was a
I think they were
lie.
worried about me.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
You're just isolating one single
I'm
thing.
not isolating anything. I mentioned all the factors. You've added some new ones, but I mentioned all the factors that you're blaming for
No,
your
sir.
decision to lie.
That's not what you did. What you asked me is you said, I took my partners
I would
telling
be
me
so embarrassed.
not to talk to somebody
Oh my
without
God.
a lawyer as a reason to lie. And that's an inaccurate statement. That was one of the factors that went into a series,
decision to lie.
hang on, Mr. Waters, a series of events, all right, that caused me to have paranoid thinking, all right, and then I lied.
All right. But at some point it happened during this interview that you crossed over. You're saying that you came into this interview intending to be fully disclosing to everything, and something happened in this interview that sent you over the edge, and you said, hey, let me lie about the last time I saw my wife and child alive, supposedly, according to me.
I certainly didn't go into that interview, I believe, intending to lie. Mr.
Okay.
Waters, I wasn't capable at that point in time of planning anything, or thinking through anything.
So somehow during this interview, all of a sudden those senses came to you to plan and do that.
When I got to thinking in that paranoid way, that normally, as I said, I mean, I could take a deep breath and make it go away. I never had a situation where it lasted more than a matter of seconds. That night, after all those things had happened, it didn't go away in a matter of seconds. And I decided to lie.
Those are the clothes that you ultimately gave to Dave Owen. Is that right?
Those are the clothes I gave to David Owens.
At what point did you be able to chuck the pills you say are in your pocket? When did you do that?
When I was in my bedroom.
When you're in the bedroom?
Yes, sir.
Where'd you put them?
I'm not sure where I put them, but ultimately they would have gone in my suitcase.
So that's when you did it? You have a specific recollection of that?
No, I don't. I just know that I took them out of my pocket.
If we watch this whole video, you think you could, if we watch the whole thing, you think you can say, okay, that's the moment where my senses came to me and I decided I was going to tell this major lie?
I don't know that it happened like that, but I mean, I may be able to tell you some things that contributed to it. We watched the whole thing.
We've heard that. I just want to be clear, though. At least on this one, at some point during this interview, when you were able to plan your lie about this event. And you made that decision. But
Obviously,
it wasn't what we just played. It wasn't yet. It was some point after that.
I don't think that's a lie right there. Is the reason why I don't think that it's occurred before this, because what I'm saying there, I believe to be truthful. And I know this. I know for a fact that when David Owens asked me about my relationship with my wife and my child, I know that that played a role in that. And I believe that, and I may be wrong, but I believe that this was before that.
You ever heard the expression, not telling the whole truth is the same as telling the lie?
Sure I have.
He talked about lies of omission earlier.
As a lawyer and a prosecutor?
Yes, Jodi Arias. Remember, she told like
Yes.
5 different stories before she was convicted to life in prison.
All right.
I think he definitely goes down as a hostile witness. He's being very pleasant and Southern gentlemanly, but at the end of the day, he is a smooth passive aggressive.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
And spell your last name so I get it correct.
Murdaugh.
All right. And you go by Alec?
Yes, sir.
And date of birth, Mr. Murdaugh?
May 27th, 1968,
And a good phone number for you.
803-942-1227.
I mean, did he have a drug or something? Because he's making all kinds of snorting and all kinds of weird
And
noises.
so what was your name?
Yeah, Danny Henderson.
Okay.
Danny and Henderson, I think. I'm trying to find him.
All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen in Lower Rutland with Colleton County. I'm misled. I hate to have to do this.
I
but
understand.
yeah,
I totally
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
So you don't have any problem
Yeah.
with it.
So,
You hadn't decided to lie right there, correct?
I don't believe so.
You told David Owen that you understood that he had to ask questions and you do what you need to do, correct?
That is what I told him.
Ron, this might be a good time for a break.
O'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, addressing the jury. We'll break till 2:15. We'll go to the jury room. Please do not discuss the case.
Mm-mm. Okay, guys, it's break time. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to keep you guys long. We'll come back. Okay. We'll come back at 2:15. But let's talk just a little girl perks in. Okay. Look, number one, this is what I think. This is my opinion, right? Number one, he says he was a drug addict. I kind of don't believe it. This is a guy who was pulling in millions of dollars, millions. Well, I don't even want to say legit, but he did have legit cases that were settled, where he was making potentially anywhere from $1 million to as much as $5-6 million a year. Okay. On top of the fact that he was stealing. Okay. That's number one. So how much did he really make? He could have been making $10-15 million a year. We don't know because he was stealing from everybody. Not only was he getting his portion, his bonus, his salary. I'll share the CFO's testimony and Miss Shelley, who is the caregiver, and I'll share more tomorrow. I think anything more would be like super overwhelming, but the CFO, she testified for roughly about 3 hours. I would say probably about 45 minutes in. I mean, it was a slow burn to, oh shit, he did all that. It was kind of like if you've ever been involved in an investigation at work and they are just slowly every day, you're going about the business at work, but you are uncovering back the layers of something serious that's going on at the job. And that's what happened with the CFO. It all started with a check, a missing check for payment from a law firm they were doing business with on a case. And the paralegal called the other paralegal and was like, we paid that. Well, when was it paid and what's the check number so I can track it? And it was, well, that was paid to Alex directly. And that's not the process. If you win a judge, say you get into a car accident, your lawyer gets, well, in this particular case, this was a co-attorney type of thing. So he was being paid out, number one, his expenses, and then they were being paid out the settlement to the client, right? The money for the client was to go into somewhat of kind of like a trust, or let's just say like an escrow account. That's where the checks are cut to the client. Alex was skimming off the top of that money. Either the money wasn't making it into the books, or he was taking from the money, or he was creating ways to steal the money. Okay. He was doing a couple of different things, right? This was all undetected because, he would give like random discounts rather than taking a regular third. He was like, oh, this is a really nice person. I'm just going to have a 20% fee rather than 33%. Meanwhile, he'd already taken his portion off the top and did not go into the firm's kitty because they were paid one big check once a year. So he was greedy all the way around. His greed is really a lot of what got him looked at by many people. And when you follow the money, that's what they always say, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. That's where usually you find the answers to what the heck is really going on. So anyway, long story short, he says he's got this pill habit. He would not answer to how many pills. You have a pill habit. Most drug addicts are very kind of like, they know how to support their habit. Any of you who've been around or had privy to, if you work in medical, if you've had someone in your family, they know, oh, I was doing 2 ounces a day. I smoked an eighth of weed in a couple of days. I did this, I did that. Most drug addicts know because it's a whole process involved with getting your drugs, right? So you know what you need, right? So how do you not know what you were taking at any one given time? I was at least taking 20 pills. He couldn't make it make sense because if he attached a street value to the actual amount that he said he was doing, you could probably believe he was doing 50,000 of another drug before you can believe pills. I mean, how much did these pills cost? $100 a piece, $1,000 a piece? Like, what kind of pills were you taking, and why were you paying so much? Were you paying for privacy, confidentiality? Were you paying for deliveries? Like, how deep does this go? Because if you're paying that much, you're paying for something. So now we're going to need to know, like, oh, $100. Like, what were you paying for here? And then he probably would be involved in implicating some other people, right? So I think his cousin Eddie had some sort of involvement. I almost believe this is, I don't know. I don't know that he is a pillhead, just to be honest. Maybe he was taking some pills recreationally, but I think he was probably doing other stuff. Just my opinion, his demeanor doesn't give me opiate head. It gives me recreational other things and hard alcohol, things of that nature. That's what I would think, especially as a man who was out partying with his sons. Just he was. There's pictures posted of him out partying on the boat with his two boys who are in their 20s, right? This is a man in his 50s. And you're partying with your kids. It's not even like you had friends in their 20s and 30s. You were partying with your kids in their 20s and 30s, one of which killed someone in a boating accident, allegedly, right? So just a lot going on. And even yesterday, the testimony about what happened when he got to the site, and that was when he was being questioned by his attorney. And the funny thing is that the person who's operating the camera directed the camera at his attorneys like, oh shit, he's lying. They know he's lying because he said yesterday he jumped out the car and went and checked his wife and his son. And it was probably 20 seconds before he actually called 911. So he got there. He immediately saw what was going on. He said he tried to check their pulse. He said he tried to move Paul. And even though he wanted to see if they were still alive or whatever, I don't even know. But based on what the officers stated, there's just no way that anybody, any stretch of the imagination could think that somebody with the injuries that they had was alive, because it was pretty brutal. And the type of weapons that were used, the weapons that were used to kill these two are weapons that existed on their property. However, they never found the guns. They don't have, I don't know if they had prints on shell casings or not. I'm not sure, but since those were his firearms and that was his ammunition, but I don't know if that was even his ammunition, just to be honest. When Alex said that he went to the house to go get a gun after he found them deceased, and he said he was scared and he wanted to make sure that, he was protecting himself. At the end of the day, he's got a rifle. They check his rifle. How about the rifle had been wiped clean? Why did you wipe clean the rifle that the 911 operator told you not to go get? It would stand to reason that your fingerprints would be on it because you just went to go get it. But that wasn't the rifle that was used. The other rifles are missing. So there's a time period of a minute where, based on the road maps, could be where he stopped his car or slowed down his car to throw Maggie's phone, right? Now, as far as him hiding the weapons, they have 1,700 acres. 1,700 acres. And they didn't search the property for well over a month until, after this happened, right? Who knows where those weapons are? Then there's a text message talking about so and so brought the heat from Miami. I'm sure they're going to go back over some of this. Who bought the heat from Miami? And what was the heat from Miami? Like, so much, so much. I mean, look, I would hate to be him right now. I don't feel sorry for him at all. This man has done so much, and there's a reason why he's sitting in that seat. And the irony is that his great-grandfather, his father, his grandfather all tried cases in that courtroom. And he's even someone who was given a badge that he did not even earn. He was given a badge as a deputy assistant solicitor, just so he could spend time with his dad. Meanwhile, there are people who have to earn those spots, apply for those spots, all of those things. I'm sorry about my dog barking, guys. Anyway, long story short, let me let you guys go. We're going to go on lunch break. I'm going to handle some things and we'll be back. If this continues into Monday, we're going to cover Alex's testimony, and we'll talk about this, obviously, because we're putting a lot of time to it, and it seems like a lot of you guys are interested. I'll drop a bunch of links on my community page, and we can talk about it next week. I just think this case is so interesting. If you guys get caught up on it, want to talk about it, we'll continue. But as long as Alex is on the stand, and then probably closing and the when the jury comes to a decision, we will cover that. But as far as whatever's left after Alex, I don't know that I can commit, because this has been like 2 days of sitting on my ass in front of the computer. But I think that they should be finished with Alex on Monday, and then his attorneys are going to get a chance to try to clean up the mess. So we'll cover up into Monday, and then, maybe we'll talk about it at night after court. And if I can stream some of it, I will, but I don't think that there's going to be anything as good as what we're watching right now. Like, this is the crescendo of everything everybody who's been following this for a long time wants to see. I feel so lucky that I just kind of got into this a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't have to wait 2 years. It's kind of like, fast forward a year or two from now, and Brian Kohlberger is on trial for the Idaho 4. Girl, that's going to be, there's a reason why they're not looking, the other thing that comes to mind to me regarding Alex is the fact that in all of this, you never really hear him talk about, because of psychology, that he's wants them to get the true killer. Where's the true murderer? Where's the people that killed my son? I kept trying, no one's looking for the real murderer. And he knows why. He knows why, because, well, he's it, right? Or he knows who they are because the heat came from Miami. I don't know what it was. This has been going on. Well, so Paul's murder, Paul had the boat accident about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, maybe. And this particular situation with Maggie and Paul, let's see what the date is. Was it 21 or 22? Let's see. I'm going to Google it real quick. In case you did not know, so this is, some of you asked, did I delete the picture? Oh, here it is. Hold on. This is Buster. This is the surviving son, if you can see. Hold on. This is the surviving son and his future baby mama. Is that Brooklyn? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Look, take it how you want. This is a very prominent South Carolina family. I'm sure this girl comes from a, quote unquote, nice home. At the end of the day, sis is out here, the girlfriend of this guy who potentially is penniless, got kicked out of law school, and is working at the corporate offices of Wild Wings. Okay. He's not of the Murdaughs of 50 and 75 years ago. He's of the Murdaughs of today, where his mother was murdered, his brother was murdered, his father's on trial, and allegedly penniless. But I don't know. It might be one plane ride to the Bahamas to go get all the cash. I don't know. But she's not married, and she is being photographed. My daughter, girl, no way. See us after you get all this sorted out. Like, we'll see you. You can come to the house, but sis out here being photographed in this mess, and you don't have on an engagement ring or a wedding band. You're a girl, like you're in your 20s. Like, this girl is, I'm sorry. I'm like, that's okay. Whatever. Y'all do what you want. Anyway, these pictures are going to live forever on the end. Like, you're oh. And I'm sorry, if you're from a family, like, this family appears to have been doing a lot in that community. As a woman, and you see how another woman was done as a spouse of a murder family, the Murdaughs or whatever, however you pronounce it. Yeah, no way. No way. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So we don't know if dishonesty is just the worst thing, but his father is standing on trial right now for an awful crime. So I don't know. Anyway, guys, we'll be back after lunch. Looks like they probably stopped right at 1. So probably about 2:15, 2:20. So I'm going to shut this one down, and I'll start up a new one like I did yesterday. And that's it. So anyway, unless you guys just, I guess, any questions, anything before I close out, I'll set it up so you guys can come back in to chat, but I'm going to shut this one down. And then we'll be back. I'll let the live start streaming around 2:15, and then whenever they come back, we'll get back into it. Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take for them to go to trial for the Idaho 4, but let me look up really quick when the actual, I think it was June 7th, right? Was it June 7th, 22? Hold on, June 7, 2022. Murdaugh. It seems like it's Murdaugh. Let's see, June 7th, 21. is when it happened. Mr. Murdaugh recounted spending day. Okay. So this didn't just happen last year. This is going on 2 years now. On Friday morning, the disgraced attorney returned to the witness stand. Hold on. I am over here at the Independent. I'm not sure what newspaper this is, but it's called the Independent. Alex Murdaugh Live gives bizarre defense for lying about murders and detail of oxycodone use. So was this 13 minutes ago? So this is hot off the presses. Alex is back on the stand facing further grilling from prosecutor Crichton Waters as cross-examination resumes in the double murder trial that has captured attention across the globe. On Friday morning, the disgraced attorney returned to the witness stand in Colleton County Courthouse in Walterboro, South Carolina, where he is on trial for the brutal slayings of his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul. Mr. Waters confronted the accused killer head on about the murders and his changed story about what he did and where he was when they were killed. While the cross grew increasingly combative on Thursday, the prosecutor did not bring the 7th June 21 killings up. Instead, he grilled Mr. Murdaugh on all his alleged attempts to influence the boat crash investigation through the power of his legal badge and his schemes of stealing millions in settlement money from real people, including a quadriplegic. That would be Mr. Hakeem Pinkney. Okay. During Mr. Murdaugh's direct testimony, he shocked the court when he confessed for the first time that he had lied about his alibi on the night of the murders. He also admitted to extensive financial crimes and to orchestrating a botched hit plot on himself, but continued to deny the killings of his wife and his son. The botched murder for hire was basically he tried to pay his cousin Eddie. Okay. He tried to pay cousin Eddie, aka Pookie. I'm saying Pookie. Okay. He's tried to pay cousin Eddie to shoot him in the head, but allegedly Eddie missed. And he basically did that because he said that he wanted Buster, his son, to get his $12 million policy. Girl, we're going to leave it right there. Okay. Okay. Y'all are amazing. Thank you for coming and spending some time with me. We'll be back at 2:15. Okay. Are you serious? This isn't a break from the girl. This is better than the mommies, right? Girl, you know what I'm saying? Today, watching Jasmine and that slow ass, redonkulous ass video of her sitting and opening up a damn tripod. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, this woman should have tripods on the plenty. Don't you work here? Are you not a vlogger? Do you not tell everybody and their mother that you vlog? Are you not involved in digital media? Do you not like what? How do you not have I mean, we know Chris broke it, but damn, you hadn't replaced your tripod? And this is a woman who like I mean, look, I don't know what it costs to run their household, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna say it like this: if it's not enough, get up off your ass and post another video. And I'm talking every day. Go to all these umpteen platforms that you belong to that allegedly you have monetized and go and make something shake over there so you're not sitting around here without the equipment to be able to do your damn job. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a break from the mommies because the mommies are awful. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna let y'all go. I'll be back at 2:15. I'm gonna get myself together. And I will see you guys in an hour. Okay. But I'm gonna put the live up now so the chat room will be open. And I'll have it all set up and ready to go. Okay. I'll see you guys in a little bit. You guys take care and I'll see you back in a little while. She should have girl, she says she has one. She has a ring light one. But she didn't have like she didn't have a decent tripod. Like that is a decent tripod, no lie. Like it's not a bad one at all. But at the end of the day, sis, you've been doing this for 10 years. You don't have several. But of course, word on the street is that Chris broke one or something. I don't know. These women live Like, just seeing her geek out over this unboxing of a tripod was like, y'all, let's go. I mean, I didn't want to give too much time to it. It wasn't entertaining. I'm gonna just say it like that. It wasn't entertaining, and it wasn't worth the time at that moment. You know what I mean? There's more interesting things going on in the world. So we're gave her time back, and moved on. And and that's it, and that's all. Anyway, guys, have a good lunch break. Eat something good. And I'll see you guys back in a little bit. You'll see this. I'll open this back up in just a second. Okay. Take care.